Sleeper is the #1 fantasy sports app. It pays to know sports. Pick more or less on top players. Your first pick is on us, so start winning now. Play in Texas, Georgia, Minnesota, and 27 more states. Pick anytime across all sports, pregame or live. Over 10 million players are already on Sleeper. Make your picks count. Score up to 1,000 times your cash. Join today. Get up to $100 credit using code NEST. Call your shot on Sleeper. Download now.
Hello and welcome to the Hawks Nest Stream Show. My name is Brandon Kane, and I do thank you for tuning on in, as this is your Seattle Seahawks weekly roundup. A little bit of a chance to kind of catch our breath, get ready up for the weekend games coming on up, take a little bit of a look at the past week and what's going on, if there's been any little bit of bits and pieces that have slipped between the cracks. That is what we're going to be doing today. And we've got a decent amount of stuff to cover, but the Seattle Seahawks, of course, have just kept the good times rolling on top of winners of 6 of their last 7, 10 straight road wins. They were active. They were one of the teams actually active there at the trade deadline yesterday. Not in retrospect, not a lot of teams out there making a lot of major moves, certainly not giving up a lot of grand capital, absent the New York Jets that were in almost a fire sale mode. And so you were one of those teams in the mix, and you made a nice move there with Rasheed Shaheed. And as I think you guys can see, not only has it been a universally praised move amongst, I think, most of the Seahawks fan base, I think nationally, I don't think that any of you have seen one person nationally look at this trade and go, well, you know, and the rental part is maybe the one part that they can bring into it, but nobody can undersell the ability and what this guy brings to the receiving core as far as helping out and allowing this thing to be even better on the outside, making you even more dangerous on the outside. I thought Dan Orlovsky covered one spot that I hadn't even really as much unpacked as much. And I'm going to show you a clip of this here in a second from last year with the Saints, Kubiak there, so same offense. But that he felt like this was going to be a move that was going to make the Seattle Seahawks more dangerous in play action, under center play action specifically, than any team in the NFL, if they haven't already been so. Sam Darnold is a fantastic quarterback, being able to turn his back, reverse back around, spin back around, know where his read's going to go, be quick with that, and let it rip. And he's, of course, got the arm strength to fit in anywhere on the football field. But Dan was talking about this, and it did get me thinking, because so much of defending the run is all 11 men connected and doing their part to help. And what you have with a burner like this is you have a couple predicaments that the defense is put within. All right, do you want to try to come up and bring press coverage up on that guy? And then if you do, you've got to trust that the press is going to get landed, because if he's going to run step for step with the guy with him, then he's going to outrun that guy, which then means you're going to need the safety over the top to then bracket him up in the coverage. And this is important because if you're standing on the plate saying, okay, if it's passed, this is the way we need to play this. If it's run, then we get back around to getting back down to defending the run. Those two players specifically, that outside corner, the safety to that side of the field. And so you get into a play action situation, for instance, where you're making everything in the world look like it's going to be a run play. Sam drops in that nice play action fake, and that safety, he's got a responsibility to try to come up and help the run. But knowing you have a guy like Shaheed with such pure burner status to him, track sprinter speed, and the guy was more recruited as a track guy than a football guy coming out, and that's all going to come at your forefront of your mind at the end of the day. That's going to win out. May not win out immediately, but this is also the domino effect that comes into play and allowing then your running game to be able to have some more footing and be able to come a little bit more further now, because that safety who early on in the season felt comfortable coming down in the box, that corner who felt like he could get back to his coverage responsibilities post-snap before he made sure that it was not a true run play, but a play action. Now I think they're going to have to play a little bit more true because of that speed. Speed kills in the NFL, like they say, and it absolutely still can against these kind of defenses that, especially this year, are really, as you can see across the league, mounting up their attention upon trying to make sure that they're stopping the run. More stacked boxes this year, more 3-4 looks than we've seen probably in the past 10 years this year. I'm sure the data is going to bear this out at the end of the season. And so comes back down to now the way you beat that. You can hit them with a screen game if they're blitzing. You can try to, get it out into space off to the edges and have them run a lot of out routes and stuff, but you can, where they're going to try to protect against deep because they don't have help over the top. Or you can try to take the top just purely off the defense and then force them into that position, kind of like we saw with DK Metcalf there in that year with Russell and the Let Russ Cook era, and how it kind of continued on even beyond that era point where DK, maybe not 100% a complete receiver, doesn't everything and all and go, but what he did have was that burner speed to really make that corner have to trail him up, to really make the safety have to dedicate themselves over on the top side of it. Otherwise, you could have seen him, as we did many times, running away from a guy 5 yards down the field, making a catch and going in for the touchdown. And so this is going to be fun to watch how they play this one, but a great addition. Cool to see nationally out there that there was a feeling that Seattle really was one of the winners there, universally speaking. And I think it just points to how smart a move it was for John Schneider, because how many times how many times are you going to see consensus really all across the board from a national perspective on these kind of moves? Everywhere out there, I'm sure you could find yesterday people telling you why the Jets are dumb for moving Williams and why the Cowboys are dumb for grabbing Quinnen Williams and vice versa. Same for Sauce Gardner, where there's plenty of people that rip the Colts saying you just let the Jets off the hook. And there's plenty of people looking at the Jets saying, well, how are you going to let go a guy here where you just gave him that kind of money and now you're going to get a couple late round first round picks for him, and he was a pretty high first round pick at that. So this is on our move just kind of looked at universally as they're getting the job done. Part of the many cool things about this season, many things that were just been fun to watch, been very exciting aspects of this team and what's going on, is the fact that I think for the very first time, as I can remember it in Seahawks history, as we're now halfway through the season, I don't know if we've ever had two potential MVP candidates on the roster at the same time. You've maybe had one. You've had a Sean Alexander actually win it as you're still a winner of an MVP. But right now, you actually have two different guys that each can make their own separate argument if they can continue this pace throughout the course of this season. And it has just made, again, this team so much more, it's so much fun to watch because there's just so many things to enjoy about this team. The young rookies, the elevation of Sam Darnold, Jackson Smith turning into the superstar, the defense taking it up another notch under a McDonald, Eamon Wari, and the freakiness he brings, the waves of pass rushers you can throw, Byron Murphy's development. But when you look at what both Sam Darnold and Jackson Smith and Jigba have done and what they're on pace for, it is just eye-popping. Here's a projection, the updated projections for Sam Darnold. He's on pace for 4,429 yards, so almost 4,500 yards passing, 34 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. Keep in mind now he is doing this at on pace for about 459 attempts. So just to give you guys kind of an update on this one, because I think that this is also the real key point to this, is that most of the times guy is on pace to throw for 4,500 yards. He's not on pace to only have 459 attempts. So 216 attempts right now on the season is what Sam Darnold has. Joe Flacco is leading the way with 333 attempts. Dak Prescott's got 329 attempts. So what I'm kind of saying here is that you have guys at the top of the number one here that are literally double in the amount of passing attempts of what Sam Darnold has. And in Dak's case, he's thrown for 2,300 yards so far. Sam's thrown for 2,000 yards. So despite the fact he's got double the attempts, he's only got about 300 more, or not double the attempts, but 60%. Sam's got 200, not 100. So 200 attempts to 333. So just efficient, hyper efficient. And the real number to look at here, of course, is the 9.6 yard per attempt that is leading the NFL right now. That is an insane stat for a quarterback, especially coming through the era of the spread concepts where you had QBs at times through years who would average 5.5, 6 yards an attempt, and they'd be perfectly happy with that. 116 rating, very high, great touchdown interception ratio. To me, I'll take 34 and 11 all day. I don't mind the 11 picks at that point if you're throwing 34 TDs, especially when you're at a 70% completion percentage, especially when you're at a 9.6 yard per attempt. But his MVP talk here is true and real. If he can sustain it, I don't think he would win it right now, as it would probably be going to more of a Daniel Jones, Matt Stafford. Probably those names will be more of the names that garner that, even if he does keep this pace. But Sam is playing at that level. He's playing like an all-time best season for the quarterback position for a Seattle Seahawks quarterback. There might be a Russell Wilson year in there individually that you could find that maybe supplants it a little bit, especially factoring in Russ's use of his legs. But this is as good as it gets, performative-wise, from the quarterback position, and doing it on a very bare minimum attempts. Seattle Seahawks are 24th. He is 24th in the NFL right now in passing attempts as Sam Darnold, and yet still putting up those statistics. That is amazing. Jackson Smith is the other guy to take a look at here who's just really stood out to me. And another guy where it's not necessarily on the back of, I would say, an insane amount of targets. He has had a good amount of targets for sure with 79, but Jamar Chase, to put some perspective on this, has 107 on his side of it. There are other guys that got well over 80 in this sport. So he's getting well targeted. He's got a huge target share of the offense, but he is currently on pace right now for 123 receptions. That would be a Seattle Seahawks record, of course, and he has actually increased his pace from the past couple of weeks. The Calvin Johnson record-breaking pace that he was upon, he is continuing forward even stronger now, up over 2,000 yards. He's on pace for with a 16.3 yard average per reception. And so Jackson continues to go up to that spot. Another guy like Sam, where probably somebody else will talk into some other guy being the guy that somehow deserves getting this MVP. But for a guy having an all-time year like that, 2,000 yards receiving, and nobody's done it, you would think that it would get a few eyes on his way. And we may even see the real down part of this being that maybe both Sam and Jackson end up pulling kind of votes from each other if it stays at this pace. But no matter what, when you hear about people talking about the Seattle Seahawks as a Super Bowl team, and you might find yourself as a person going, I don't know how we got here so fast on this. I don't know how it goes from just playoff to, it's almost like we skip past their playoff team to like Super Bowl contending team. And it's not me saying on this, but what you're hearing it nationally, I think the national people are looking at all these parts of this team and understanding, this is what makes up a Super Bowl team, is having all of this stuff you're working from in. You've had the difference makers now elevating, including at the quarterback and wide receiver position, to the more important positions to have difference makers at in the sport. And so I think that they are seeing it true and that this is a potential Super Bowl team. I, like many others in my chat out there, still remain in that spot of like, okay, if we're to get to that spot, I do need to see us in the regular season take down a truly legitimate foe that's, not just average or a little bit better than average, but is actually one of those teams that you might be facing out in the playoffs and put them away and show you kind of got it in your, in your abilities, because it's right there. You can see this team certainly can stand with anybody in this sport. And I love the fact that we're hearing that, but that's going to be the test in a couple of weeks with the Rams. I think we're going to really find where we're fitted, booted, and where we're headed. Thank you guys for watching today. If you could do me a favor, please hit that like button. I'm trying to work through a little bit of my broadcast was not working on my normal deal today, so I still am having to work this through Streamlabs. So we're going to be doing some of the graphics here and whatnot, but it might be a little bit odd today as it's been a bit of work in progress for yours truly with this. But please do, if you can, hit that like button. Let's get on to some of the segments here today. And first take a look at the PFF scores of the week. A lot of good grades today. Maybe I should turn off my deal there. That might help. A lot of great grades today. And we'll start off with the offense. And hopefully you guys can see this okay. Offensively speaking, Sam Darnold led the way here for your Seattle Seahawks with a 92.6 grade. Jackson Smith-Njigba with a 90.3 grade. Sam Darnold remains the highest graded quarterback in Pro Football Focus. He has been at that spot now for a little bit of time. No shocker there. Jackson Smith-Njigba is number 2. He is neck and neck with Puka Nacua there as far as being the top wide receiver in his rating of the sport. Torrey Horton, no shocker there. A couple touchdown catches, had a very good game, including that one touchdown with a really nice inside release, and then showed off some of the burning ability he's got in those legs. He's got some speed, legit speed. I'd say he's probably a low, maybe even a high 4.3-ish guy to a low 4.4 guy. He's right there in that neighborhood. He wasn't healthy last year when they tested him out in his 40, so I think he's even faster than the time of his pro day. Abraham Lucas, I've been talking about him coming on for the last couple of weeks, and he just continues to do so in the last few. He's just getting stronger and stronger, and such a good sign to see this guy seemingly rounding fully into shape, fully beyond that injury, able to play at the type of strength and mobility, and certainly getting smarter as a player down. He's been a few years in this league, but rewarding them for giving him that contract extension at the start of the year and looking very all-around good. You can see in his grade here, 72 overall, but a 77 pass blocking grade, a 77.3, so almost literally the same grade by a 0.1% between what he did as a run blocker and what he did as a pass protector. Jalen Sundle, he's had some down games this year, but this is maybe one of his better games of the season. And remember, with this Washington Commanders team, you've got Deron Payne down there, you've got Zerzan Newton, you've got some tests down on that inside where it's not just easy peasy and a sweet day at the office, just lean back. And again, like Abraham Lucas, he was well graded all the way around, which would be a very good development for us. Elijah Arroyo had a good game. No shocker there. He made a couple of catches in this one. He stood out for sure. How about Nick Callerup getting some of his first action out there? A guy I think the team is fairly high upon. Bryce Cable with a couple snaps on the lower end of it. And definitely a shout out to, I think, Anthony Bradford there. Played probably maybe his best game of the year, or at least second best game of the year. He was absolutely locked solid in pass protection. Still does give you those moments watching the All-22 with him where he's just blowing blocks in the run game. He'll have a certain play where he's got to be to one side of the form. He's on the one side of the formation. The run play is going away to the other side of the formation. I mean, he's just got to get a hat on the nose tackle and just kind of hold him up a little bit, not even get push. And that nose tackle just ends up walking him all the way across the line of scrimmage. And I think even on the play, Bradford just about made the tackle of the running back. Another one of those just Bradford snaps, but he is maybe starting to get better. I don't know. It was at least a better game. We didn't make a trade. We got to have this guy get better. That's the only way this one goes. Gray's able had a bit of a tough game according to the rating, specifically in his run blocking area of things, though he remains very solid as a pass protector. And you're going to need him this week with Nolan and Calais Campbell to really hold up in that way. Robbie Oots back with only 13 snaps in his first action, so a little bit of a sample size there. But it didn't miss maybe a couple blocks in the run game that kind of stood out for why his grade was where it was at. Charles Cross has been well graded this year, but like you see a couple of these Seahawks offensive linemen not necessarily being given a nice bump when it comes to what they're doing as run blockers. PFF's really liking what they're doing in pass protection, but as run blockers on a couple of these guys, there is a lot to be still desired from them as far as even getting up to kind of average snuff. Defensively speaking, we go over in Ty Akata, the man with the climb a ladder interception. Didn't know this, but my guy had 40.5 vertical inch leap on his pro day. How about that, huh? Going up and get that interception, but he played a really strong game throughout. And Ty Akata is just giving you another depth piece here as you're able to now really take your time with Julian Love. And you feel okay about him back there. He is held up. He seemingly is coming on stronger and stronger, a little bit like Drake Thomas, who you can see was also well graded in this game once again. The more these guys play, the more they get comfortable, the better they are, it would seem. Drake Woolen had a hell of a game, 82.7. We're going to be featuring him on our hits of the week this week. And he was good all the way around. Look at that. A good cumulative grade with Tariq. Not merely I'm an 80 here in coverage and then a 50 as a run defender or a tackler, but you can see his run defense, his tackle grades were all very solid across the board. Ernest Jones played really well for you before he went out due to injury, as he was one of your top-rated guys. Kobe Bryant had a nice, solid game. Byron Murphy, Leonard Williams, he'll be our underrated hero of the week. I think he played a little bit better than his 65.2 grade. A lot of double teams committed to him by the Washington Commanders as they recognized the troublesome part of his presence. And then on the bottom side of it, Brandon Peely, 20 snaps in there. I didn't think he played that bad to what his grade was at necessarily, but they dinged him a little bit. Maya Pritchett as well, much like with Peely. I did see a couple of his snaps out there, and I didn't think he was too bad. He was coming out there filling in at times for Job here and there, and only 19 snaps, so not big. Jaron Reed did have a half a sack he shared, took up a lot of double teams. I thought he played a solid game, so some of the bottom end scores I'm not as really sure on with this as to how they all kind of arrived there at that for a defense that, again, was pretty lock solid throughout the day, but maybe some of those empty calorie yards at the end or whatnot was a little bit of the driving force there. Special teams, always hard to kind of quite figure out the special teams grade. For instance, you got 60 for Jason Myers. He made his only kick. I thought he kicked pretty well in the kickoffs. So you don't really know not really sure where they go to the grade on that one. Brandon Peely, of course, leading the way with a 91.4 with his meat hook fumble that he caused on the kickoff. So good to see there. Chris Stoll was actually down making a tackle as your long snapper in this game. He was like your lead guy down there on one point, which was pretty impressive on his part. And Jarek Reed tends to always be one of your higher graded special teams guys when he is out there. So no surprise there. All right, let's keep it moving and let's go over to that biggest hit of the week and take a look. I got two. I got a friendly fire and I got Reek Woolen laying the wood. Isn't that crazy?
The biggest hit of the week.
All right, let's go take a look a little bit here at some of what we got going on here, and that's going to be our big hits of the week here. I can get my stupid thing up. All right, the first one is going to be a little bit of friendly fire. Just a little bit of friendly fire, man. And unfortunately, This is going to be a little bit of a combination deal. So this is going to be both. It will be both a hit of the week and also a come on man moment here, unfortunately speaking. And so let me see if I get this right. Again, bear with me today. I'm having to do this with a little bit of a different type of situation to make sure I got this right. Okay. Yeah, there we go. See if this will work. I get my broadcasting sources out this week, so we'll do it this way. There we go. All right, so we got to play here. Starting it a little bit. It's a little fly sweep out here to Deebo Samuel. And Tayakata, who I mentioned, played a really nice game, comes up here from center field and makes a nice little hit. But unfortunately, it's not a hit on the running back. So as I'll run this in slow motion, why was Josh Jobe knocked out of this game with a concussion? He's 29 there on the far left side of your screen. 39 you see coming up here. 39's like, I got him. I got him. Oh, I'm going to hit this guy so hard. Look, Drake's got him busy. I'm going to come up and I'm going to do some damage here. And then he comes up and, oh, that's not the damage we're looking to do. Right there. Ends up just completely torpedoing Jobe right under. I mean, Jobe's kind of lucky he doesn't have his freaking jaw broken on this one because he gets it up under the helmet itself. Tough little hit. Just knocks Jobe right back. It's like, bro, I'm on your team, man. Sometimes those safeties, they get hungry for those hits. They just can't help themselves. So one of my hits of the week right here, nice knock. It'd be nice if it actually hit Deebo. But my goodness, this is really going to be more than anything else, Mike. Come on, man. Come on. You can't be hitting your guy like that. That's not going to do. Mike, come on. Lost Mike, come on. That's what you get with having a different setup here. But Okada played a great game, made up for it with a little bit of an interception, and hopefully we can get Josh back for this upcoming week, if at all possible. Now, my true hit of the week here is going to be coming up in a second here as I... And again, sorry, folks. It's going to be clunky a little bit today because my broadcast stuff ain't working. But I mentioned Reek Woolen, well graded in this game and what he was doing. And on this play, he's going to be set up on the bottom of your screen. You'll notice him down on the low side. I don't have markers here I can show you guys really on this, but just take my word for it. He's lined up in press. And what you see here is there's a little bit of, we want to run off here. So the hope is, from a Washington perspective, that bottom receiver, they want him to pull Reek inside. Drake Thomas gets taken deep. He's out of the play. Reek's to get pulled inside here and covered there. And then they run the running back out into the flat for what should be a quick, easy completion here for the Washington Commanders. What I like about this play is not only does Reek come up and lay the wood and get a nice hit, he's got the size that if he comes up and he's really committed to doing it, I've seen him do it before where he can hit a guy pretty well. But I love the fact that he doesn't get caught up in the coverage. Beautiful hit here. You can get mad at him about the flex. It's kind of a whatever on that one. Officials call that. Sometimes they don't. He probably gave it a little bit extra flex. But you love that he doesn't let Washington attack him with the concept there. Figures out just what they're trying to do. Reads it. Keeps his eyes up on Jaden the whole way. That's partly why he reads this play. As you see, his eyes are always back on Jaden here the whole way. He can feel the receiver here with his body, so he doesn't have to look at the receiver. Feels the receiver with his body, has his eyes back, go drive on the route, and then lay the nice hit. Nice little play there by Reek Woolen. And love how he's kind of answered the bell of the coaching staff here. You know, you're in competition. Jobe's right there with you step for step. This coaching staff wants you to start. They want you out there. They want you to be the man here. You got to go out there and perform like this week in and week out and show that you're as locked in as you were in this game. And very impressive to see there from Reek. So there was your both come on man and a couple of hits of the week moments from this last game. Reek Woolen, if he can play like this, man, it just takes this defense to that whole another notch. And Devin Witherspoon got acclimated back in on this defense this week, and he slid into the outside like I thought he was going to do. That's where they had him. And now you got two guys that they can be rolling, and what you're getting from Eamon Wari. And this is how this defense can come together more further. This is how it can become even more dominant as the season potentially goes along, as well if it can just maintain its health. That's going to be a big key with this one as well. Let's touch on our next segment, which is going to take a look at the underrated hero of the week. I've been very impressed by Leonard Williams this year, and I keep being almost impressed in different ways by him. You know, when he first came here, it was obviously the talent that he had and that he was a difference maker in a way that you hadn't had on the defensive line for a while in that way. And then last year, it was the guy got paid and then gave you maybe the best season of his career. And then this year, there's been an extra part of it that I've really noticed on film over and over again standing out that just really makes me feel like, and maybe I'm making too much of a big deal of it, but that this is the type of thing you need for a team to get into a status of becoming great. And if they want to go ascend, and if they want to go be a Super Bowl contending team, your greatest players have to play great, yes. But what happens when your greatest players are also those guys that are working the hardest out on the football field, that are saying this is the standard, telling you this is the standard, and then going out there and showing you that's exactly how they play, that they are always going to operate with that fire, that they're always going to be going 100 miles an hour in every play, that there's not that give up, there's not that take a rep off kind of approach. And I just have to feel like this is infectious through the rest of this defense when they see that, especially for young players that are learning how to be a pro. And you see this guy who's made all this money, who's got a bunch of big contracts he's signed, making over $20 million a year. You know, he could say, I've done the work at this point. Now I'm just going to hit the cruise control button, pick my spots to get a couple stats here and there to be made to look good. You know, I know how to do that as a vet now. He's not doing that. He's not doing that at all. So let's show just a couple plays here from Leonard Williams. Because I just got to say that I every week with him, I see this. I'm impressed by what I see with him. And it starts with the hustle for me. If I can get sorry guys. It's like I said, it's a little clunky today. Bear with me. Starts with the hustle. You have a play like this, Jaden Daniels. It's a little dirty here. Good job by Boye. Create some pressure here to force him up in the pocket. As you notice, as I said, a lot of double teams in this game. A lot of double teams here against Leonard Williams, yet able to still keep fighting. So easy enough to maybe give up on this and go, well, it's not my problem on this play. I took on the two double teams. You guys got some single blocks. Everyone else got single blocks across the board. Byron Murphy, Derek Hall, Boye Mafe. Yet, who's the guy who ends up finding his way off the two blocks and then running step for step in there with Jaden and pulling them down? Yeah, it's a nice gain for Jaden. Not a bad play there for him at all. But at the same point in time, you look at it and you go, boy, that's a hell of a good amount of hustle there. Go to another one here. Man, this is hard not doing this with my broadcast source. I'll tell you what. All right, I got to start this play a little bit midstream. Sorry, they only let you do so many of these clips now for so long. YouTube's been kind of cracking down on this. So again, double team here. Washington is in max protect, despite the fact the Seahawks are only rushing 4 guys. You got a lot of guys in coverage here. Jaden has to get out of the way of Eamon Wari there. But then look at the guy who tracks down Jaden Daniels. You know, just watch Leonard Williams still on this play. Spin move 2, find Jaden, run him down. Get off double team, spin 1, spin the second if he's going to kind of climb up. Love this because he's feeling Jaden climbing up into the front of the pocket here. So it's this spin off here tells Jaden, nope, you can't go through that way. So again, a lot of defense. Like, all right, I forced him back on the outside, took that away. Somebody else has got to come up and make the play. He still goes and tracks him down. This hustle is there every single week on this guy's tape. Every single week. So impressive. Some more hustle plays here. This play gets single blocked, still finding Jaden the whole way. Seattle did not commit to a spy on Jaden Daniels in this game. Look at those players on the back end. Watch those linebackers. Look at Eamon Wari. Who's spying? Who's spying here, huh? Nobody. Everybody's back in coverage. Seattle trusted their front four to be able to contain Jaden Daniels in this pocket. And that's just what Leonard Williams is doing. Just like I showed you on the last play here. Keeping his eyes on him. Back and forth. Take one path away. Go to the second path you forced him to. All set up on the back of that. Just staying hot. Keeping your hustle. Keeping your eyes active. Play to the echo of the whistle there. It's not a flashy play. This is a guy making over $20 million a year. It's a guy in his 30s. It's a guy to me that's playing like he wants to go get a Super Bowl. He gives you the dominance. He gives you the stats. He's going to give you the pass rush. A couple of the pass rush reps in this game. Wait, not that one. Not that one. It would help if I... So even when he's not, another part of his game that you've seen this year is, I can't tell how many plays Leonard Williams has forced to play back into the arms of another Seattle Seahawk. He's got a couple of sacks this year that are certainly, should be probably on his production, but is going to other guys. And this is just the kind of play that I would be talking about that you see. He absolutely decimates this block. Just the lateral movement here. This guy's 315 pounds. And he starts out wide, stretches the guard out super wide. Look how far that right guard is as far as his pass set goes. Look at how much that guy stretches out 76 there. He's getting out so wide because Leonard can press that outside shoulder, despite the fact he's got a tackle right next to him, and then cuts it inside with just a little swipe, not even a full spin move, just kind of a swipe swim. He doesn't really come over the top with it. He just wants to make sure he keeps him pinned there. And then just right in the back on him. Lyman recovers a little bit. By this point, though, you have forced Jaden to take his eyes off from down the field and having to fully deal with just the pass rush, and he's cooked. So you get this stuff, too, with him. It's the full meal deal as a player with him, but again, just makes that hustle then all that much more, to me, impressive. Able to get sacks, too. So does all that stuff, all that hustling, all that helping teammates, containing quarterbacks in the pocket that are hypermobile like Kyler Murray's and Jaden Daniels. And then, he can still split a double team and go get a sack. Leonard Williams is my underrated hero of the week. He has been this one for a couple games this year. He is playing like one of the best, if not the best, defensive tackles in the sport. If there is a guy that's playing better than him right now, I would love to hear it. There's nobody who's playing more complete, who's firing off more heartily every time, snap in and snap out than this guy. And we're not talking Aaron Donald. There's not going to be an Aaron Donald, but as good as you can about get from that defensive tackle position and allowing Byron Murphy to kind of keep flowing in what he's doing. He's giving him some occasional snaps in there where Murphy's able to go to sometimes some 3-tech there, and Murphy eats up those double teams. And a couple times this game, you saw teams really quantitatively saying, we are going to double up Leonard here. At times to now give the freedom, the single block over there to Byron Murphy and see if he what he can do. And they're not as worried about that, I suppose you could say. But a cool thing to see him doing what he's doing. And if we do go on this year and make noise, if we eventually in the next year or two here with Leonard can go win a Super Bowl, This guy and that addition of him to this defense and what that kind of helped to kick off in so many ways cannot be understated. It has been a great A impact by John Schneider to go get Leonard Williams. And one thing that we said about that when you made that pick at that time to move him for a second round pick for all those people that were a little bit against it is we said, who's going to be a better defensive tackle you're getting in the second round than this guy? You know, you may have been able to go get maybe a Zerzon Newton. You would have had to, I think, move up into that draft to go get. You wouldn't even be able to get him at your native pick. You got a far and away better player than what you would have selected there at the second round. You know, maybe a younger guy and whatnot on that, but he's sustained his performance here, and he doesn't look like he's slowing down anytime soon. And we're looking at Calais Campbell over there with the Cardinals, still playing at a high level at his age. Sometimes those big, freakish guys can keep it going for a long time, especially when they got that kind of country strong strength like Leonard Williams kind of does. All right, let's keep it moving here. And let's keep an eye here on the old enemies out here. We got the best division in football. We got the hardest division in football. We might be seeing this division have one of the best runs of a season just from one division that maybe we've ever seen, as everyone in this GD division has a freaking positive net plus minus ratio. Let's look at what's going on with the NFC West. All righty. So, as I said, this is not getting easy anytime soon here for our Seattle Seahawks when it comes to the West. Unfortunately, it just is what it is, man, where nobody's easing up. You keep hoping here that why is this not working? Oh my gosh, this thing's driving me crazy. There we go. So here we got the NFC West right now, and it was a great weekend here for the NFC West as everyone won. Every single team was able to go out there and go get the victory this past week. And Seattle, blowout. Rams, blowout. 49ers, pretty close to a blowout. And then the Cardinals had the Cowboys blown out through most of that game until the Cowboys were able to mount a little bit of a close down at the end. But look at that plus minus differential there over on the second to far right-hand column that you see. And notice it in comparison to the rest of the teams in this sport. Bills and Patriots both have a great plus-minus ratio, but everybody else in that division is awful. The AFC North only has one team with a plus ratio, and that's at +7. The Cardinals have a better differential ratio than the Steelers at first place in the AFC North, to speak to how strong this is. And when you get down to the breakdowns of this individually, the Rams ran through the Saints like we did at home. No surprise there. It's about what you'd expect. They mixed the ball over the field. Stafford's still throwing a bunch of dimes all over the place, looking like right there with Sam Darnold. Baker Mayfield is the best quarterback in the sport, if not the best quarterback in the sport. That defense was very tough, very, very tough on the Saints and didn't give them much headway at all to work with. The Niners had the Giants. The Giants made it interesting for about a half a minute before the 49ers were able to just kind of move the ball up the field on them. Christian McCaffrey having a big day, and Mac Jones continuing to hold the line. Though oddly enough, it seems like the Niners are still committed at this point to going back to Brock Purdy once he comes back off of his toe injury. And that's a little odd with how good Mac Jones is playing. I think there's a lot of Niner fans that would like to see Mac continue to be the guy that is able to be the signal caller, that he's been the guy that's helped them to continue to mount and do what they've done here at 6-3, despite Brock's injury. So we'll see how that goes there with that situation. Another defender goes down for them for the year, Mykel Williams, the first round pick that they took very high in this last draft, who had been a pretty, he wasn't an impactful player for them, but he was giving them good snaps. He's a good run defender, gives them a little bit of pass rush. Unfortunately, though, he goes down to the year, much like a Fred Warner, much like a Nick Bosa, so many injuries that they've had piling up. And so they are left even leaner now on that edge group. And somehow the Niners keep getting it done. They get a season-ending injury every week, yet they still keep winning. I don't know how they do it. You got to figure it's going to come to a head here at some point. They are playing the Rams this week, so maybe that head is going to start off on this one, as the Rams are going to be looking for revenge after that loss earlier in the season at home. And then, as I said, the Cardinals won their most probably impressive win in the season against the Dallas Cowboys on the road, where the Cowboys tend to be a little bit stronger. And that you went in there, you got out in front on that team. Jacoby Brissett playing on time. He's hitting the middle of the field routes, the in-cutting routes, the timing-based routes really well. Marvin Harrison must love having Jacoby out there because it's night and day, the chemistry difference with him and Jacoby versus Kyler. They are down a couple running backs right now, and we play them this week, and that's notable, I think, because they don't have as much dynamicism there at the running back position, and still the offensive line's got some issues, I think, in pass protection that the Cowboys couldn't really fully take advantage of. But defensively speaking, the Cardinals are absolutely legit. Josh Sweat with 2 sacks, but 11 pressures operating off the edge in this last game. Calais Campbell still getting it done, and the guy that I was hard on, Walter Nolan, who has not played out a single game this year so far due to a calf injury, was able to play his first action, 3 tackles, a sack, a batted down ball, a TFL. So he was able to make some real impact there for the Cardinals coming in that first game as that defense gets just a little bit healthier. Mac Wilson does go down, so maybe that will help us. Their inside linebacker, who's a very good player for them on that. They have gotten a little bit healthier with their corner situation as well. Something to monitor out there as well. Johnson's back in the flow with them. But that defense, man, they can get after you right now, especially as they start to get and lengthen out that defensive line rotation a little bit similarly to how we're able to kind of do it, I would say. But that's your NFC West. And that this thing ain't getting any easier. You're going to get 2 losses in this division this week, but only because we got 2 teams playing each other. Otherwise, we might go 4-0 once again. It's pretty wild to watch how this has been for a 10-year stretch, the best division in the NFL, and that we might be at the height of our powers this year. You look at some of these other teams out there in the NFL that have a little bit of that feast factor. You know, the Eagles get a beat up on the Commanders twice, who we got to play last week, and feel what that'd be like. They get a beat up on the Giants twice. And it's a nice little Benny to have those free 4 at least that you get to run through your schedule to just kind of doggy paddle your way towards potentially a bye week in the playoffs. But we'll see how it go. Long way yet. We'll see if all these teams can sustain, especially considering the Niners, who are beat up all to hell. Give me 1 sec here. I'll be right back. Donation from Cal. Thank you, Cal. Appreciate the $2 donations. I hope you're feeling better, feeling good. I'm hanging in there, rolling through. Got a little bit of a fall cold going on here, but you know, we just tape it up, put a little bit of whatever on it, and get going through a little Robitussin. But thank you, Cal. Appreciate the donation. Megan, thank you for becoming a member again. The Hawks Nest. I know you're already a longtime member, so probably just had to have you re-up. And it's been closing out memberships just without people turning them off weirdly on that. But good to see you back in the flow of things. Hope you're having a good one out there, Megan. Thank you guys for watching today. Sorry, 1 second. Man, yikes. Issues here today. All right, we will roll through here a little bit with the chat today. Not much ever really out to cover. Everything's pretty quiet as it stands. But let's see where you guys are at the moment and where your heads at. What you thinking? Do you have a question on Hawks Nest? Just do hey Hawks Nest or hey B or Brando or YouTube's getting weird again. Chat randomly disappeared. Oh man. Hopefully everything's okay. WD4, Brando, you're killing it. Love the game live streams. Thank you, WD. I love doing that, man. I'm having so much fun on those lives, and especially to have a year like this where things are really coming together. And we've had times we have pretty good years in recent years as far as better than average teams, but you do feel like you're able to maybe make a little bit of noise here this year. And the team's just playing such complete games. We're up on teams in the third quarter. It's a lot to celebrate. Sean McLeod says, man, PFF hates Sable, laughing out loud. Yeah, they're not big on him in the run blocking game, especially. And to their point on that, I think that something of what you'd expect is when you do have a guy that initially is transitioning from tackle at the college level and kind of a small school at that for the most part. I know that's a program that's been churning out some, especially NFL offensive linemen recently, but it is one where you're going from tackle to guard, and you would probably think that that guy making that transition, at least initially, will be a guy that will probably be able to hold up well in pass protection, where his nice feet inside are unusual for what a defensive tackle would typically have to encounter. But then to the flip side of that, may not have then as much of the power and strength that may come with time as he, grows into his grown man strength and is able to start really, add another 10, 15 pounds in a pro weight room program over an off season. Just get stronger, at the point of attack with that stuff. And I expect he will. But yeah, they're not big on him with the run blocking grades. Jay Melfair, Morris continues to improve slowly. He's getting some snaps this year. He's actually finding a little bit of and he's got to wait on the pecking order with it because there isn't, as many snaps to be had, especially now that you're 4 deep. But he's getting a little bit of run. He's making something happen with it. And boy, Joe, he is, to Joe's point about that great tackle on the opening kickoff where he took out McCaffrey landing on him. He's been very good on kickoff coverage. Another place you got to give Jay Harbaugh a lot of credit because he's instituting something here I don't think that many other teams are instituting, which is a willingness to have the bigger defensive linemen out on the kick coverage unit. The whole claim to fame of the kick coverage unit through the years has been it's either receivers, cornerbacks, safeties, and maybe linebackers in there. That's the mix of guys you're having coming down to defend it. And he's bringing guys like Mike Morris and Brandon Peely down there. But that's partly because there's now not that long way those guys have to go to get to the ball carrier because of the shortened down distance. And especially when you kind of squib kick it like Jason Myers does, just slowing down the whole start of the play to begin with and giving those linemen that much more time to get down there. You can't block them. So it's kind of smart by Jay to go, look, they don't have to cover as much space. They can get down there and get to the ball carrier. And, we'll have the reinforcements on the edges if the guys try to cut it around. But a cool little adjustment and strategy by Jay Harbaugh this year. I don't think he was even doing it as much necessarily last year. Jay says, did you guys see the smiles on Shaheed's face as he walked in the facility today? I bet it's got to be a great feeling going from a team in Saints that's going nowhere and you're in a contract year and you're trying to, do enough to earn that money, but it's so hard to do in that kind of environment to be able to go and, play for a winner. And you're not having to come in here and be a superhero. You just come in here and add to the mix, find your role. And you should be able to flourish within that. Jay Melfair, Peely's an all-world special teams player right now. Brian, PFF scores are so much like throwing darts, man. I take those scores with a grain of salt, especially non-skill positions. Yes, it's one where I definitely would say, don't give it the whole measure and wait, Brian. I think it's a point of data that I can't say that I would just throw all the way that it has no measurable point to it. There are some guys you will look through the game and you go, man, how did they come to the grade on this? How did they come to the grade on that? But there is, for the most part, when I look at the grades through the weeks and after watching the All-22, it does tend to, for the most part, add up. There is some discrepancies there, but for the most part, it's like, yeah, that kind of goes 2 and 2 together on that one. But it is imperfect, to your point. Kendrick, Shaheed was like, I finally got a quarterback in a squad. Exactly. Tommy says, McDonald said Ernest Jones will be listed as limited, but overall that appears to be good news, per Bob Condotta. It is great news, Tommy. Thanks for the update on that. And I think that them not going out and making a move for a guy like a Logan Wilson or some other inside linebacker out there, because there does tend to be guys available you can go get. I think that that's telling that they feel pretty good about Ernest Jones's long-term health for this season. Yeah, Derek has to finish there. Yeah, Derek sometimes on the finish stuff can be a little bit missing with him, unfortunately. That is something you get with him a little bit on tape, Kendrick. He had a decent game. I don't think he played bad, but, he does have times where guys will slide off his tackle a little bit. Yeah, Brent, we need Ernest for the Rams game especially. I think you can get away with it this week, but without him. But next week you need him. E. Gibson says Shaheed is a good addition. He's a solid deep threat and will also help JSN get open. Amen. Amen. Ryan B., the Cody White crosser touchdown is what Shaheed can bring on the regular as well as the Horton touchdown, second touchdown. Indeed. Yeah, he's got a variety of couple of those routes he can make and move. And the thing with the long crosser, like you talk about, Ryan, is it is as much a speed concept for a wide receiver. It's as much about the speed on that concept as route running, just as much as a 9 route is about speed and how fast you can get down the field, more than it is really about how well you run a route with that. And the same thing is true. And because you're coming all the way across the field and you tend to run the coverage off for the guy coming across the field, it's going to be a play that's open. The key to it is just, do you have the guy that's going to be fast enough to get from point A here at this side of the field all the way over to point B to this side of the field before the pass rush is going to get down? Because it is typically a very long developing route. You're kind of curling through the whole edge of the field, and you're not taking a straight line at that. But yeah, he should be used in that capacity quite a bit. Cool little play here. I meant to show this one earlier, but why not show it now? And this is one I got to chop up a little bit, unfortunately, because, again, YouTube just doesn't let me do all I want to do anymore. They say, no, you will not. You will not do that. And this was a play from last year I wanted to show. This is a Kubiak special right here. And this was a little bit of what I wanted to bring up, especially on the heels of Dan Orlovsky talking about the play action game and how he feels like the Seahawks are going to be the most deadly play action team as we go forward this year. And I think about plays like this for why you might would have thought it. You have on the bottom of your screen here, Shaheed lined up on the line of scrimmage. They're in a 2 tight end look, are the New Orleans Saints here. Seen a lot of that from the Seattle Seahawks. The Dallas Cowboys counter this with a base defense. So they have their safeties up over the top, but they've got the base defense set. And what happens here is you watch the safeties on high here. Look at those safety. You can only see one safety, but as you get to about right here, you can see the 2 safeties. Now you see their eyes are still going to have to remain inside for the run game. So there's a commitment to, yes, they're both in a cover 2 shell, and they're going to play basically as a pure cover 2 post snap. But you can see in the cornerback as well. He can't just cover Shaheed off the line because he has got to respect 21 on the bottom of your screen. He's got to respect the run play. See his eyes in the back of the field. He's never at any point really on Shaheed here. His eyes are all completely on just the run game itself. So you've got three sets of eyes here, all on the run game as long as you can possibly keep them. And now, okay, we're to a pass. He's gotten through and cleared their first cornerback. You have two safeties high now. I believe this is a cover 2 look from the Cowboys. The other safety actually comes over here late in this play, and I'll play the second half of this play in a second. But you can see that the high side safety there tries to come over and help his buddy out because he knows his buddy's done. He also does a good job of recognizing the in-cutting route, so he doesn't have a threat over the top. So the top safety ends up trying to pull and get a double on this, but Shaheed's just so fast, he ends up splitting them and running right through them. And Derek Carr learned very early on, as you watch the highlights with him last year with Shaheed, and I think he even tweeted this yesterday, just throw it up there for him. That's all you got to do. Just toss it up for the guy. He's going to go get it. And here you see him going right there. Look at that. Look at that late separation there. Right here. Let's go back a little bit. Look at the late separation here. Just throw it as far as you can. Let the guy go run under it. Splits the safeties. All started off a little bit by that pass, by the play action from under center stuff, because it captures the eyes. It's been often said, you don't have to be good at running the ball for under center play action to be effective. It makes these guys look, it makes these guys hold for that one beat too long. And that's all you need with a guy like Shaheed that's going to be this fast. You can hold the safety for just a second there. You can bring them down. If you can take a false step down, and that's even better. Get that one false step down towards the run play that's not coming. And now they've got to reverse back and go backwards. I talked about that with Bobby last week in the build up to this last game, and that not just the play action, but if you can get them to come up a little bit, and then they got to go back at the same time while they've got a guy coming at them running full speed. It's not an easy day at the office to pull that off. Donnie, how you doing, man? It's good to see you. Brent says with the Niners remaining scheduled, they can't be allowed to sweep division teams. Indeed, you eventually are going to have to start winning some of these games against the Niners within this division, as they are currently right now 3-0. But this Rams game this week, I think, is going to be one where the Rams are going to be, I think, highly motivated. They're in a good health standpoint. I cannot imagine. I couldn't imagine much on the first time, but at least the Niners had a Fred Warner last time around the first time. At least they had a Michael Williams. At least they had the Alfred Collins going, and they had some things that were still kind of rolling there at that point. Juwan Jennings and whatnot. They're not in that same kind of place. It feels like right now, but I call them the zombie Niners. Man, they find a way. It seems like. MJ Seahawks, do you think Haynes takes over for Bradford this week? Probably not, because Bradford's coming off of his theoretically best game of the season. So the team may be thinking that they can build on that a little bit. I also just haven't gotten a good enough feeling about this team really feeling that great about Haynes. There's been a lot of indications to me here that this team might be kind of looking at Haynes in a little bit of a way of not as sure that he's as much of a long-term answer there versus where they thought he was at when they drafted him. I don't know that for sure. It's just kind of reading the tea leaves on that one a little bit, MJ. Ryan, I hate when we're going to have to start thinking about Reed and Leo replacements sooner than later. You got some decisions that'll come up down the line on this one, Ryan. The team's gotten ahead of this a little bit with the Riley Mills situation because Riley Mills is a long-term replacement for, at the very least, a Jaron Reed. Do you do another year of Reed and then have Riley go, and then you're kind of going with those guys as your 4 defensive tackles next year? Maybe. Reed is under contract for 2 more years after this, but Leo only has 1 more year after this season, and so maybe you see them extend Leo this offseason potentially even. Yeah. And you got Byron Murphy there too. So you do technically have replacements, but those guys are playing well and you aren't looking for them to go. Yeah, Sean, you probably just keep the continuity there. Unless Christian's really showing you something in practice. If he's just giving you a little bit of the same kind of mixed play you're already getting, then just keep the continuity of Bradford. I agree with you on that. Maybe so the Card fans are tweaking online. Man, they're feeling themselves after 1 win. I'll tell you what. You talk about a fan base, you can just sense how much they needed to win only after the win occurred. This is one. I'm like, wow, really, guys? It's just you beat the Cowboys. I mean, great. They're just like, yeah, we're back, baby. We're back. Paul Susie, NFL Power Rankings. I still have my Hawks at 16. That's tough. I didn't do my play call of the week today. We got to do my play call of the week still. Sean McLeod, thank you for the $2 donation, Sean. 3 been close on blitzes. Time for smoked brisket. I want some brisket, baby. I want that thing slow cooked. 4 quarters slow cooked. I want that meat falling off the brisket bone, the brisket bone. I want to make him make the face that he made last time. Where's the face that we made him make last time? Hold on here. Maybe I can find it. Maybe I can find this one. I had it somewhere here. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Look at the just look at Brissett after this play. Leonard smoked that brisket last year. Oh, that hurts. The big cat hurt me. Look what the big cat did. Oh, God, it hurts. Oh my God. Oh my God. Why does it hurt that much? Why does it hurt that much? More of that this year, please. Yes, sir. I will have another of that. More big cat brisket. Have you ever seen a cat eat brisket before? It's a messy affair. Megan Hawks doesn't know how you feel. Migraine from hell. Yeah, I'm just fighting off this annoying thing going. Just not a full on cold. Just kind of there. Just like, hey, I'm kind of here. Lead Lions, imagine if we get 100% healthy defense in time for the playoffs. I'll tell you what, this defense at 100% health, if you can get that to the playoffs, which is a tough thing to do. I mean, we're very fortunate to be as in good health as we are right now at this point of the season on that side of the ball. Say nothing about really both sides of the ball. But if you can get to that place, this defense can be dominant. It's shown. That step we thought they could take, top 5 defense, top 3 defense, number 1 defense, all of that potentiality exists within what we've seen so far from them. There's more work to be done. There's going to be stronger tests like the Colts, like the Rams 2 times to really give you a better gauge of where this defense is at in that development. But there's a lot of reason from my standpoint to believe that this can get even better as the year goes along. You didn't start out the year with Uchenna Nwosu running as well as he's running. You didn't start out the year as much with having Imanwari go in there. He had to come back after a couple of games. Then when he came back, Witherspoon was out. Now you kind of have the mix of everybody going. And then that with the true upside potential that might exist with this team. Kendrick Lamar says Cowboys were able to sack Brissett 5 times. How many do you expect the Hawks to have? Quite honestly, it's to supersede that, and not just because we got a better pass rush, Kendrick, but because of the fact that you're down Trey Benson and you're down James Conner from a Cardinal perspective. And I think you can feel a little bit of the lack of talent now at the running back position you're missing without those guys there. Not that they can't run here and there, but that they're leaning as much on passing the ball because they understand this is what we're going to have to do to win a game. And so more passes, more attempts for this defense to get after it with the pass rush. And they've got some real weak links on this offensive line. The right side is awful. They're still rocking Evan Brown out at left guard. It's going to be probably a pretty long day out there, and they're going to try to probably work the short passing attack as much as they can. But you saw last year in that Patriots game as well with a similar offensive line that Brissett was playing behind, and that we got after in that game. We had a lot of pressures in that game. Part of the downside you have with Brissett is, okay, he's big, he's got a good arm, he's been around the block, and he can operate a functional offense that can work on time. The problem comes into play, though, is that there are some statue-esque tendencies within his game, and he cannot move out of that pressure. And a lot of quarterbacks in recent weeks, from a Baker Mayfield to C.J. Stroud with some good pocket movement, Jaden Daniels in this last game, they've gotten themselves out of a lot more trouble that would have existed for more of that statue-like passer that Jacoby Brissett is. So I think we got probably about 7 this week, Kendrick. Lethal says we're the number 1 defense in the league when healthy. I could see it. Koken. Hi, Brandon. Hope you have a good day. Great day today. Thank you, Koken. You too, man. Appreciate you. Megan says TheSeahawksNest just woke up, so might be a doubt question, but how does PFF come to their grades? What do they base it on? They've got an individual person that's assigned to watching every individual player and then grading those players. They try to utilize former players for the most part to grade those out, as I understand it. So there is definitely some room for error within that, but they are watching the individual all 22 of that one, each individual player to come to the grade determination. And there's definitely some arbitrary nature to it. BB says, I miss rookie Jarek Reed on special teams. He's been pretty good this year on it. There's been a couple times he's been up as far as some of the higher rated guys up on the PFF board as far as ST goes. Sean, Brando, what would you like to see from the backers while EJ is out? Is there a small silver lining with them in coverage? I mean, hard to say. EJ's been a pretty good player for you in coverage this year from the middle linebacker position. You're probably pretty equivalent in what you're going to get from Tyrese Knight. And I do think, just a general suspicion I have, I think Tyrese Knight's probably a better Mike than he is a Will. That's more of where he comes from. So I think you're going to see him pretty comfortable this week, fitted into that role. I don't think you're going to have EJ out there, even though he's limited. But it'll be about the same between those two guys. And a big part of the key of this game is going to be watching the Cardinals with Brissett back there He does a lot of the attacking of the middle of the field. And that means those linebackers are going to have to cover it true to make sure you can keep that stuff closed down, especially the on-time stuff in there. So, Drake's good, but I think EJ and Tyrese are kind of pretty similar. Irrelevant. Any news on Ernest Jones? Ernest Jones was limited in practice. I would be very surprised if they had him play this week because you're looking for that Rams game to be the one where you really want him back and able to flow at his best. Because you probably do feel like in this one, like we've said a couple times this year in certain games, does this game and you getting the win against the Cardinals come down to Ernest Jones playing or not? Probably not. And if I'm a coach, that's one of the real measurable questions I'm asking myself when I'm deciding whether to play a player or not who probably could really benefit from having the extra week of rest to prepare up for that next game the upcoming week. It's kind of just part of the management to me of this new 17-game season, and that you try to just, on sometimes in the past, if it had been 16 games, maybe you're a little bit more drawn to have those guys go out there and play even with a little bit of a hitch in their giddy up. Now, I don't think that's going to be as much your intention here from a team-centric standpoint. You're going to try to be a little more careful, I think. I think most teams are that way now. Jeff says, I'm loving what I'm seeing from Zabel. He'll get better as years go on. Walter Jones wasn't a Hall of Fame player his first year. Oh, yeah. He'll be fine, man. Great pick. Kid's been as solid as we could hope for out the gate, Jeff, to your point. And he's got much more upside to his game that's going to come along down the line, too. Agreed. Rockman Drums, we have to be on point this weekend. Sure, the Birds can be tough, but we have to keep the momentum going into the Rams game. Amen, man. And the Cardinals are not going to be an easy opponent. We barely edged them out the last time we play. Granted, this game is going to be at home, but this is not a team that's going to make it easy for you at the office. They're going to give you a stiff, tough measure. I was pointing out earlier, their +9 differential would be better than what you got from a Pittsburgh Steelers team that's winning their division. And differential is one of those markers that you can look of that maybe you've lost some real close games, but you're actually a fairly decent team. And remember, with this Cardinal team, I think all of their, 5 losses on the year have been by a total of only 13 points. They've been in every single game this year. So, merely to dispense away with them that they're 3-5 bottom of the division, we can't do that. Also keeping in mind that they were that close in those football games, not having played Brissett for most of the year. And that Brissett has been worth an extra touchdown for this team when he's played versus Kyler playing. So got to be worried about this game. Got to take this one tremendously seriously. And maybe that'll be the upside here to them winning against the Cowboys on Monday night, is that Mike McDonald's not going to have to talk this team into that if they'd been 2-6 coming into this game, but can say, look at the differential. Look at how they played that Cowboys team. You better take this team seriously this week. Patrick says, I'm assuming we won't draft a receiver high, probably corner or lineman. I would say that that's probably a good guess at this point, Patrick. If you're not going to re-sign Shaheed, you're still probably going to be holding on to then Cooper Kupp, and then you're still got Torrey Horton in tow. John's been willing in the past to stack up the receiving core deep, but I think the part of this that factors in heavily is you're going to be so run-centric now and into the future that there's not as much of a need to stack the receiving core that heartily. As well, to your point, you're going to have some needs at corner with both Job and Woolen moving on in free agency likely. And an offensive line-wise, center, right guard could certainly be one that you could look to find some upgrades. Kendrick says Marvin Harrison Jr. disowns Marvin Harrison Jr., adopts JSN as his prodigal son. I like this one better. John says, I can see it now. Nick Emanwari will blitz the right side, and that tackle on the Cards is going to not even see straight. Shot on the brisket. I love it, man. He's due, to your point, Sean. Devin or Emanwari are due. They are very close when they're blitzing right now, just an inch away. And these mobile quarterbacks, part of me thinks that that's part of what's helped them to get out of it. Slobby One, Commanders kind of ran the ball down our throat, not going to lie. Interesting to see if that trend continues without EJ. Yeah, they did a little bit. I mean, it was one where I think we got up in that game and we're like, look, if you want to run the ball 5 yards a pop and bleed out this clock, go for it. You're just going to lower this game down and erase the game. And the Commanders, even in the fourth quarter, run the ball a pretty good amount. First, you protecting against the deep ball and stuff. But I wouldn't get too worried about it, just considering that we've been so good at stopping the run throughout the whole course of the season. I think that we're leading the NFL in the longest time that it's been since we've had a 100-yard rusher in the NFL. So I think if it comes back to everything being evened up, you're not going to have to worry about as much being an issue. Seth says, do you think we'll release Cup at the end of the season? Also, do you think now we may not re-sign K9, maybe draft a rookie running back? I think that for a lot of the in-house free agents right now, Seth, kind of unfortunately, because it'd be good to have a little bit more development from one of the collection of Mafe, Walker, and Woolen. But I think in all three cases, you're probably going to let all three of them go at this point, Seth. Unless you can find with K9 some kind of like lower tier deal where he's not breaking the bank. You're giving him some money now. You're giving him some money for where you know he's going to go in this offense in the long term. But at the same point in time, he can't get paid like he's in the upper crust of what he's done from a productivity standpoint, which is where I think he's going to probably want to go. And I kind of think K9's going to have some team out there that's going to find and look at what he's done here in Seattle and say, that team never gave him really good run blocking. He never got any kind of holes, kind of the holes that we think we can give him when we bring him here. So I just kind of think some team's going to get imaginative with it. Not an Eagle team, but an Eagle-like team that looks at it. Maybe a Ravens team that moves on from a Derrick Henry would look at a guy like that. But I think at this point it's heading in the direction of probably him finding a replacement. Cup, hard to say, Seth. You can save about $9 million in cap space by moving on from Cup. You could then just float that $9 million into the first year of a deal to Rasheed Shaheed. And so that maybe you feel like you've got your better fit in there. But he's been a good player for us. I hear a lot of people talking about Cooper Kupp and they're just like, dogging on him. And I know the injury's not well timed right now necessarily for what he's going through, but at the same point in time, he's got 33 targets this year, 24 receptions and a touchdown. When you throw him the ball, he's made catches. He just hasn't had a lot of targets. He hasn't had a lot of opportunities. And we come back around to that thing where it's just, to me, you got 45% of your target share going to one receiver, and then you're 24th in the league in passing attempts. It's kind of just, there isn't a lot of other opportunities there for the rest of these guys right now. It's a good problem to have, but it's just the reality of the situation too. But it makes it hard, Seth, to quite know what you're going to do with Kupp on that front of it. Because as the coaching staff look at it, like I look at it, we're like, okay, the injury thing comes up and he misses maybe 2-3 games this year. Okay. But if he still comes out at the other end of it and he ends up with, 45, 50 catches and 750 yards, he has a pretty big cap hit next year. But at the same point in time, if you're down on 24th in the league in attempts, is that a bad season? Because if you extrapolate the numbers, even if then you had Sam Darnold up at like top 13 in passing attempts, and then you add those numbers on to Kupp, Kupp's going over 1,000 yards. And we're all perfectly happy with that productivity. I think the number of attempts that we're going to end up throwing this year should really factor into people's outlook on the receivers position, Cooper Kupp and the rest of these guys. It's really, really notable because you're not just middle of the road. You're not just bottom third. You're drifting in a direction towards bottom 7th in passing attempts in the NFL right now. Sentai Donnie, the Hawks Nest. Likewise, Brandon, I'm fine despite the Kelvin timeline within the Star Trek universe ending for good, despite Beyond being my number one Kelvin movie. Paramount did the right thing. I'll tell you, Donnie, the thing that they should have done, and the thing that I wish these studios would have just a little bit more imagination, is you got Quentin Tarantino, who supposedly has a Star Trek script. And he was willing to want to utilize the Kelvin universe. Like, there you go. Let's get creative. Let's do some fun things. Let's go outside the box. But that's Hollywood for you. No imagination, man. Marcus, I love the Seahawks, bro. Me too, Marcus. Especially this team. So much fun to track. Rock, I miss Kenny McIntosh. His burst off the line. Such bad luck. Very true. Stevens, yeah, long-term prognosis on Haynes bust. It's kind of in that trended way, unless I see something different information-wise here. Slobby, wouldn't a Leo extension save money? Kind of yes and no. I'm not sure what you'd be looking at as far as what he could command at that point, considering, okay, he's got the age that's a little bit further along, but he's also still remains so very productive. And you do carry a $15.8 million base salary next year. Maybe you could rip that up and take that down to a minimum base, give him another 3-year extension. The one notable part of this is that you do have about $4.6 million in a void year for 2027 already. Slow B1. So whatever you then have into 27 that you're adding on, whatever new salary has is added to that void year deal. And that's also going to be right around the place where you're going to start to be thinking about Byron Murphy on a contract extension too. But not out of whack. There's a potential that you could find something with that, and maybe Leo's not going to try to break the bank where he goes, "Looks, I made my money now, and I'll take a relatively good deal. I'll be fitting into a role in this defense moving forward, and that'll be fine." So potentially, they actually got 2 voided years deals, by the way. So it's both 27 and 28 are going to be void years on the Hawks books. Paul says, "Oh, dang, hit that like button." Please do hit that like button, folks. Thanks for reminding me of that, Paul. John says, "If you guys want brisket, I got y'all. Let's go." John said, "I really thought the Hawks were going to get Myles Garrett or Max Crosby. Sounds like they're making a run at him, man. Someday maybe we'll hear a little bit of the details about what kind of happened in that situation and what either held it up from happening or just, they didn't want to move him, maybe." Lobby says, "Damn, Sam Darnold is one of 2 quarterbacks in the last 20 seasons with 4 total touchdowns, and a perfect passer rating in the first half of a primetime game. Can't get better than perfect, can you?" I guess Grossi had us as 1 and hated every second of it. Yeah, I was Tom Grossi was doing his power rankings, and boy, you could just see him gritting his teeth having to admit that the Seahawks were his number 1 team in his power rankings. And that's how you know he's biased to that. So that's as begrudging as it gets. John says brisket might make people reconsider veganism. I think it is. I think I've seen a few of those videos, John, where they have a vegan try brisket for the first time, and they do that. Yeah, their eyes do that move. So one says ironically, the other quarterback was Michael Vick, the Washington in 2010. Ooh. Irrelevant. Thank you for the $5 donation. I saw a couple of counterplays on Sunday where Bradford and Barner pulled. They had a great chunk yards. You think they'll mix in more counter and power? I think it's there in the playbook to utilize. I know a lot of this is outside zone in how we are as far as our nature goes, irrelevant, but I do think that there's always the counter stuff within the playbook to utilize. And remembering, last year, the best stuff you did on the ground was when you transitioned to more of the counter, more of the pulling in space stuff, or more pulling back across the formation stuff, especially with the 2 pullers at once. Remember that Cardinal game on the road at the end of the year where Charbonnet just went crazy. And who are we playing this week, irrelevant? Cardinals once again. So same defense you're running up against, same conditions you could kind of bring into flow. Maybe a guy like Bradford's a little bit more comfortable having that opportunity to kind of just be able to get off the line and move in space a little bit more. He's a big body. So with him, when you get him moving in space, he doesn't even have to lay the block. He's just like blocks out the sun's size. Just got to get in front of the guy so the guy can't see the back behind him. But I would lean into it. Yeah. You got to, whatever is working irrelevant right now, you've got to utilize because so little is so consistently working as it is. And the one nice thing with pulling the gap guys is that if I got all these guys around the line of scrimmage stack in the box, and yet I still want to run, if I'm trying to run zone here and here and here, I'm still going to have too many defenders and I'm going to end up with penetration. But if I can pull 2 guys from here back to this side of the field, and yes, there's a vulnerability of these guys coming down the backside and being able to scrape to the running back. But if I can hit it fast enough, then this is a lot what the Cardinals do with their rushing attack, for instance. I mean, it's the forefront of their rushing attack, especially with Connor. Then I've got that extra 2 bodies to the pile of bodies up at the line of scrimmage on the stack box. So now I do have the numbers game to that side of the formation to deal with those guys. There is the risk on the backside, but it is a way to get you more evened up on the numbers game to the front side there where you want to run it. Great question, Irrelevant. Feed Me More Seahawks, thank you for the $2 donation. Feed me. Jacoby Brissett has been sacked 16 times in 3 games. He is under a ton of duress. I've watched all those games with him out there playing, and in every single one, maybe not the Colts game quite as bad, but definitely the last couple, teams are getting after him. And he's not very nimble in the pocket. He's got some, when he gets up to speed and moving, and he's kind of, give him his couple steps to get up to that full speed, he can give you a little bit of movement on that. But if you're talking about short spaces in a phone booth, in a closet, he's got to avoid a guy. It's not happening. He's not going to give you that instant acceleration to get away. And he is very much kind of statuesque in that pocket. And that's not going to bode well for a Seahawks defense that is getting after it as well as any team in the league right now. Thank you, Phoebe. Appreciate the donation, though, man. Great stats. 16 times sacked in 3 games. And that Cardinal offensive line. Whoa, Nelly. Irrelevant. Is Love back for this game? Nope. He is on IR right now, Irrelevant. Bron Sausage, go Hawks, stay awesome. Thank you, Bron Sausage. You do the same, man. Kronos, don't know if you talked about it, but if Titans claimed the angry little elf, Jarek Reed off waivers from us. Claim the angry little elf, Jarek Reed off waivers from us. Oh, I didn't know that. That sucks. That sucks. But he's been bouncing back and forth a little bit on the roster. He's a special teams guy for us. I don't think they ever really looked at him as a safety option out there for the team. But yeah, that sucks. I didn't know that. Hadn't seen that. He was just pretty well graded, Kronos, in the special teams aspect of things in the last game. Rockman says, just take away McBride with Demon Worry and Brisket will be cooked. Definitely, McBride's going to be a big centerpiece of this. Remember last year, Markman Drums, Hunter Henry went ham. He went Triple H. Hunter Henry ham. That guy was, what do you have, like 10 catches in the first half or something? Brissett just kept spamming the button to Hunter Henry. So he's going to definitely look at this defense again this week. He's definitely going to probably look at the success he had with the Patriots against this defense last year. And then he's got Trey McBride, who's a much better tight end than Hunter Henry is, and say, yeah, I'm going to go back to that over and over again. So hopefully Demon Wari can match up tight out there with McBride. And then it's going to be an interesting matchup on the outside with Witherspoon or Woolen out there with, of course, Marvin Harrison Jr. as well. Even Wilson's been playing better with Brissett, the other wide receiver for the Cardinals. John said they must have Greg Olsen doing Seahawks players on PFF. Slubby 1, isn't Tyrese Knight playing well? He has been playing well when he's been on the field before Slobby 1, but when he's filling in for Ernest Jones, he is the Mike, and Drake Thomas remains the Will. Phoebe More Seahawks, the Mike clip saying we whooped their ass was funny. Yeah, man, that was great. I'm going to rip that clip too, Phoebe. He was out there, some Ravens fan caught Mike just getting out of the stadium. Mike was feeling himself, and I love it, man. We whooped their ass. Yeah, I love it. Let's go. Corona says T-Knight played Mike, but they gave the green dot to Thomas. Makes sense, maybe. Brandy, you got to beat your divisional opponents. You got to do it, man. You got to do it. We can go 2-0 here against the Cardinals. Yeah, we got the 1-9er loss, but now you're on the pathway to getting on the right side of this here with another win this next week. Salute to you too, Wilbert. Thank you, man. Slobby 1, I wouldn't mind a first round cornerback. I wouldn't either, Slobby 1. Not at all, man. I'm perfectly happy adding that if that's where the value's at. Rockman, we need a t-shirt that has Coach Mike's face on Chunky holding a can of whoop ass. Haha, dang, I need to do that so bad. I could probably put that together in my store. So we want making a prediction. Nick's getting himself a pick 6. I'm writing it down. Slobby 1. You get credit when it comes to B. Sonny, B, how much film have you watched on Colton Hood, corner for Tennessee? I feel like he would be a perfect Job Woolen replacement. I am very slow, Sonny, right now on my scouting. I'm trying to get through a couple guys a day right now. It's kind of starting to look through some of the wide receivers, looking at some of the quarterbacks as well. Simpson, Fernandez kid. So I've been kind of getting into that. I'm just dipping my toe in the waters of the prospect stuff. And admittedly, I'm a little slow on the gun with this one. First where I'd usually be at this time of year, where I'd usually at least have about 75 in the books. But let me write down that name. And I'll tell you what, if you can for me, Sonny, check in with me on the next stream. I'll put him up at the top of my list for giving him a scout. Go take a look at some of the 22 on him and see what I can feel. But I love where the head's at on the chat. You include on this, Sonny, of a cornerback in the first round is not the worst way to go here. Especially if Mike can find the one that's really a really great fit for his defense. You can play some man, you can play some zone, you've got some tenacity to you. Rome the Upsetter says, Niner gang, y'all better not let us beat y'all with the practice squad team. I'm a good band here. No, you won't. You make it more colorful here. He's all good. Yeah, he's all good, Rome. No band. We're not banning. You're all good, bro. Ricky says, how can this offense make better use of Arroyo's dynamic skills? There was moments against the Commanders where his quickness allowed him to get open. He could be a handful to deal with if used more. Yeah, it really is driven back to, I think, the real major way that you go after Arroyo's skill set to the maximum is prior years, you went to a 2 tight end look. Defenses would tend to counter that by staying in nickel. Well, if you stayed in nickel, my H-back tight end that I might have in that 2 tight end look still ends up getting matched up with a slot cornerback that can kind of run with that guy. Now what you see is more of a transition this year with defenses, Ricky, is more 3-4 base defenses out there, more just pure base defense in general, more of a willingness to go a bit heavier with the defensive personnel to match the 12 personnel, the 2 tight end looks. This is where, to me, you take maximum advantage of a guy like Arroyo's dynamic skills, because now I'm all but guaranteed to get the linebacker matchup with him. Or take the last Cardinal game, Ricky. If you have a team like the Cardinals that are sometimes going to get super cute with it and try to drop their edge, not only into space, like out into the flat, but spot drop an edge with depth like 20 yards down the field and having to carry a tight end up the field, which is what you had with Arroyo in that first Cardinal game. And he went deep, and Sam saw the mismatch where he said, I've got Josh Sweat on Elijah Arroyo. Josh Sweat can't cover. He's not going to turn around and look for the ball. I'm just going to throw this up to Elijah, and Elijah will go get it. And that's what happened. So to me, it's really for where you can lock into where they go nickel and you're in 2 tight end. I'm running downhill on you. I go to 2 tight end and I got a play action pass. I'm going to try to isolate, one of your slow linebackers or one of your safeties that doesn't cover particularly well in space and doesn't move well. And you saw them take a chunk play down the field with Arroyo last week, because that's where this is really at, is it doesn't then become, Ricky, about the hyper amount of touches you'll get him. It is about that those touches you're getting him are you pushing that ball down the field and attacking with the chunk play with him. You're getting him on that matchup of a guy that's a little smaller, a little slower, and then the more time he gets down the field, the more of that separation you're going to feel from him on those routes. Like we saw this last week on his touchdown catch there, which wasn't a ton of separation. It was pretty good coverage and a beautiful throw, but he will create separation down the field with his speed in that way. But just going to come along with time, Ricky, and not every week is the matchup going to be on bright display, or he'll always have that same kind of impact. You have Barner here too, and what he brings. And again, coming back to that touch thing here, Ricky, where you're 24th in the NFL in your attempts from the quarterback position, 24th. And then you have half of your target share of those 24th in the attempts going to one particular receiver, JSN. There's just not a lot of pie left for Horton, Barner, Arroyo, Kupp. And that's going to have all these guys not necessarily producing at the highest of levels as far as just pure base stats go, but it doesn't mean that they're not being effective in what they're doing. It'll come with time with them though, Ricky. I mean, do we have an injury report yet? Everything's pretty good right now based on how we're doing, except for you got Ernest Jones with the limited, but you should have Joe back from the concussion. Can't think of anything else injury wise. Julian Love's on the IR still. But other than that, you're good to go. Rams House, how you doing, man? Rome the upsetter, man. We got to take you down. You guys had our number. So it still remains to be seen if we can, that's kind of the next thing for us to knock down is Rams, Niners. Can we take that final next step up to be with the big dogs in the division and really ride with them? And we'll see on that point. Oh my gosh. Ben, thank you for the $2 donation. He says 1 2 1 1 1 1 1 2 2 running routes all over you. 1 1 wait hold 1 1 2 2 running routes all over you. I love it. JSN and Rasheed 1 1 on one side, 2 2 on the other. Does feel like an opening of a rap song, right? 1 1 on the other side, 2 2 run a rip. What? Turn my microphone up. Thank you, Ben. I love it, man. Where are you going to run those doubles? Who are you going to single up? Rome says we call them the Michael Sam Rams. The Los Angeles Sams. Agrees with what they did with that pick. Rockman says Seahawks eat red birds for snacks. Yeah. We eat them like Tic Tacs. Just Paul says any given Sunday, division games, go Hawks. That's why I say I think it's going to be a close game, Paul. On the surface of it's like we can run away with this one, but no, I think it's going to be a dogfight. Division games, just the way it goes most of the time. ZD, what are the chances Harvey and Genty both have a touchdown tomorrow? Sleeper has me betting 20 and potentially getting back 100. I don't know if I like the Genty one, but this is a great time to go ahead and thank our sponsor. So let's do that. Let's do that, man. Sleeper. Let me give you my picks. I like the Harvey one. So I'm feeling you on that one, okay? But yeah, I'm also like I'm not too sure on the old other one there. So right now this channel has been so kind to be sponsored throughout the course of this year by the Sleeper app. Yeah, the Sleeper app is rolling right now. Number one sports app running out there in the game. They've got so many different options for you on the overs and unders, which I just love. But you can get into daily fantasy, you can get into weekly fantasy, you can pair basketball, baseball. You think you know sports? Put that knowledge to the test and go make some money on the back of you doing so. Just got myself a cleared bet on Monday night on that Cardinals game. Did pretty well in that one. I've got in the upcoming week here just a little small bet because we still don't have quite the numbers for the Hawks game out as far as the overs and unders on that here. So I've got Darnold going more than 1.5 passing touchdowns. I've got Bijan Robinson with a anytime touchdown, and Drake London was getting fed like a mule last week. Just, boy, they're going to wear that guy out. I think he's getting more than 71.5 yards there for Atlanta going up against Indianapolis, and probably a game where they're going to have to throw quite a bit. You can use my code NEST right now, and they'll match you up to 100% of your first deposit of up to $100. There's also an extra kicker on top of this where you don't even have to use my code. You can just create a login, and Sleeper will put a free $20 bang into your account just like that. So $100 up to $120 from me to you, and you show some love here to the channel at the very same time. In the state of Washington, there have been some restrictions, but this is supposed to be opening up now for those in the state of Washington. You don't just have to operate in a casino. So please do utilize Sleeper today. Go win yourself some money. I've been doing pretty well myself here. These would be my picks here for this week. And we'll give you some updated picks as we get closer to Sunday and we know what's what and who's who and where everything's going to go with that. But thank you, Sleeper. Please see their terms of their site for terms and use. Conditions do apply. Back over to your question on that. I don't know about the Genty one, man. You got to consider with that offense that CD that you just lost Jacoby Myers. I mean, one of the functional parts of that receiving core to make you go. Jack Bash hasn't really come along for them. And so they're really going to probably have an uphill battle through the rest of this year on scoring much. Now, I know Genty's had some moments there, but I don't know if I've got a lot of confidence in that one at this point, especially a Raiders team coming off kind of a tough loss there to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I do like the anytime touchdowns one, though, in general, CD. Those kind of picks, I think, are fairly smart picks. Slobby One says Byron Murphy's going to pop off too, I swear. 2.5 sacks, 3 tackles for loss. I could see it as well, Slobby One. Last week on tape, I saw as much double teams sliding over into Leonard Williams' direction as I think I've seen in recent memory. And we've all got to remember that Leonard Williams is the daddy. It's a little known fact, but he's actually the daddy of Evan Brown. He's sunned him up so much right now. He just walks to the line of scrimmage, and every time he lines up the line of scrimmage to Evan Brown, he puts his hand in the dirt. He looks up at Leonard Williams and he says, Daddy, don't hurt me again, please, Daddy. Every time. Leonard's even at the point like, look, I get it. I'm in your head. Just stop, dude. Just please, no, not again. Says it every time before every single play. So I think finally you're going to probably get the Cardinals realizing Evan Brown can't hang on and hold up against Leonard Williams, and you're going to see some of those doubles slide his way. And then that means Byron Murphy gets his one-on-ones to his other side. Even if he's aligned in a nose tackle, 1-tack, 2-tack, 2-eye kind of formation. CD says also, did y'all post your sleeper picks at the round table? He already had a ticket put together, did Z-Bot yesterday. So we didn't have one that we hand put together. I was checking last night, CD, and they didn't have quite the pick set up yet for the Hawk game. That was one I was kind of looking at. I might put a big ticket together though. I'll share it on Twitter, CD, when I do. I'll put it out there. At TheSeahawksNest if you're not already following. HHG, do we play the NFC West or NFC North next year? I'm spacing. I believe that we are. No, I don't think we're North next year. I think we are NFC East next year. And then, yeah, I think we're AFC West, HHG. Alberto, hello, Brandon. Hope you're doing well. Enjoyed the roundtable yesterday. Funny, 2 weeks ago, 3 of the NFC West teams were on buys, and now all teams facing each other. Fingers crossed for a better result in San Francisco. I'm hoping so as well, man. And they've had our number and they played so well. And look, the good news is San Francisco's played a lot of teams really well. It's not just maybe they have our number, but they're a really well coached team. I think Shanahan's doing some of the best work he's done as a head coach, and that's saying something there with what they've had to overcome and the adversity they've faced. But yeah, it's interesting right now looking at the teams, and we're all kind of matching up, and now we're about to all start to face each other a lot more, where we'll get the separation between these 3 teams and find out who's who and what's what here very soon on this. It's great to see, though, how competitive this division is. You got to earn your way through, man. I'll tell you what. Rockman, I want a Commanders type ass kicking for the Rams. I would love that, man. What if, too, the 49ers somehow win this week? Wouldn't that be amazing? Yeah, Paul, we got to beat the Rams and Niners. We just do. We won't get him, but Arvell Reese would be perfect under Mike Mack. I have heard that name. I think I've got him on my list as to look at, but let me get him added too, because I'll throw him on there, amen. Chad, Brandon, I just bought a brand new laptop. It's a 14.5 Plus. I now have the option to become a member instead of being a patron. My question is, I can't afford both, and I would buy the more expensive membership. Whatever I think is most convenient for you. One's just made to be one or the other, Chad. So it kind of it is sort of a bit of a probably half a dozen the other. I'm trying to keep the Patreon up a little bit. So I guess if we could stay over there, that maybe be a preference, as they do take less. The thing with YouTube is that they take a chunk of everything, be it memberships or donations. They come in there pretty heartily, especially if it's done through Apple Pay too. On top of it, it's like bang bang. They do double bites. So whereas Patreon's pretty low on the percentage they take out on it. But whatever's most convenient really for you, I'm cool with. And thank you for that support, man. Rockman says anything possible, just say it. Yeah, you never know, man. Patrick honestly was scared before the Texans game on whether we could move the ball without JSN. But looking at the Steelers, Texans, Commanders game, I feel more comfortable with other weapons now. Yeah, I think we could sustain if we had to without JSN. I think he makes this thing helps to make it so explosive as it is, and really allows it to be, kind of one of the better offenses in the sport right now, especially from an efficiency standpoint. But you've done a good job of adding the talent here. Now Rasheed Shaheed just kind of takes it over the top there. And one of the nice things with it is how you use him, how you don't use him, how many touches he gets, how many touches, all that out the door a little bit. At least you have some of that insurance there now. Rockman's Job's injury was friendly fire too? Yeah, it was. Megan Hawksnest, Mike just posted Kyler on the IR officially. He's got that Brissett-itis. He's got a nasty case of Brissett-itis combined with a codified. He's got the bursitis with the codified. So horrible two sets of conditions to have to deal with. Charlie says 3 wide receiver sets added to the offense will be most excellent. Add some explosive passing elements to the offense. Let's have it go. What's interesting too with that is that those stacked boxes that we faced with the 12 personnel, with the 13 personnel, with the condensed splits, you go with the 3 wide receiver set, even in 11 personnel this year, we are still facing a fairly high amount of stacked box rates, even when you're pulling away from those heavier formational looks. But Megan, I'm not surprised about Kyler going on the IR. Brissett has played better. It's undeniable. There's no way some owner can come in and talk this front office out of it. This is the same owner who's going to be coming to this general manager and coming to this coach and saying, well, why aren't you taking us to that next step yet? And you can't then come as an owner and say, well, I'm going to dictate to you that it's got to be this quarterback for you to get to that next step, when there's another quarterback who's showing signs of getting you to that next step. And in the case of a Brissett, you have him for another year of contract. So you can not only say, well, we'll roll with this year, we can go into next year as well. We got to find a long-term answer, but we've got a guy that can at least better maximize this roster for where it's at and able to maybe make some noise out there. Alberto, I'm surprised our upcoming matchup at the SoFi isn't on prime time with Cup returning to LA and our rivalry jersey debut. I would have thought a Thursday night, Sunday night, and Monday night football game. I think it's still possible, Alberto. I believe the NFL has a couple of days they can move down the stretch if there are certain games that they want to adjust and kick up to prime time. So still a possibility it could happen. But yeah, it's surprising from my perspective on that one as well. I think part of that was just in them not putting the plan together on that with us and the Rams had to do with some of people's outlook with Seattle coming into this year, where, Vegas had us at like 7.5 wins or whatever. Which, by the way, folks, I've given you guys some great tips the last 2 years on this one baseline thing, telling you, hey, take the over on the wins for the last 2 years for the Hawks, and you're going to make yourself some money. If you did so, you would have. Rockman, would you would love to see a successful jet sweep now that we got a Ferrari Shaheed? You can do that stuff, man. And hey, how about the 11-yard fly sweep we got from JSN last week? They actually utilized it in the offense a little bit, which was cool to see for once. Kevin says, like the video, y'all, scallywags. Please do hit that like button if you could for me, folks. Helps this channel grow, helps me show, and I really do appreciate it. And thanks for the reminder, Kevin. Me, Shaheed says he wants to stay in the long term in his press conference. That would be cool, man. And maybe you can find a way. The key will be just where's the contract going to sit with him? He's not exactly a 20-a-year kind of guy. More going to be down the low teens. Can you find a deal that kind of makes sense in that area? Charlie, which team completely blew the trade deadline by not selling? Dolphins, Raiders, Redskins, others? Redskins didn't have a lot to really turn. They weren't going to get much for what they had. I get that. Dolphins, Dolphins should have moved, but in a lot of cases, they weren't really in as much a position to move because the whole dead money hit that they had to sustain off the back of making moves and stuff like that was their cap situation held them back there as much as them not being willing to do it. The Raiders are the team that stands out to me as the team that I don't really understand what they're doing with Max Crosby. And we know Seattle was in trying to make a move for Crosby. We know that they were interested in seeing if there was something that could be shook free from the Raiders. That Raider team needs picks. They need to build up for the future. But this is, to me, just so silly on their part to just not do it. Even if it wasn't us, even just you move them to an Eagles team or something, get something for them at this point. Get something. But they were the one to me that dropped the ball there as much as any team. Did they have a lot of other trades that they could have made? Nobody's really going to grab anything from that defense. But are you really in on Jackson Powers Johnson or not? You know, are you kind of in on him? Is it kind of like lotto ticket style now where you don't have much faith in the long term with him there in Carroll's offense, and then eventually you're going to move him anyway? And maybe you should have moved him now to more maximize out what you could get, because if he's going to not be good in the future, then that value only gets more further depressed. You got to sell when you're in a bad moment. When you're in a rebuild mode, you need to rebuild. Holding on to Max Crosby and squeezing him with a death clutch is not you recognizing you're in the midst of a rebuild. Patrick says, maybe it's just me, but none of these edges last draft don't look good. I thought Jalen Walker's been doing all right. He's had some moments, hasn't he? So 12 combined tackles, 3 sacks. To your point, though, not a lot else out there really rolling. Yeah, you don't even have the Carter kid, right? Like, he's done nothing either. The kid that the Giants drafted. I was looking right now at the top. Those players at the top of the bop as far as sacks go. Wow. Kind of interesting. I hadn't thought about this as much before you brought that up. But, you know, when you look at this, yeah, you got Jalen Walker is the rookie with the most sacks right now in the NFL at 3 sacks, and he's 61st, essentially tied for 61st in the NFL. Like, Drake Thomas has as many sacks as Jalen Walker does. So kind of represents, to your point on that, it's been sort of underwhelming with these edge rushers. They do tend to take a little bit of time anyway, but I mean, guys, usually even the freak ones at the top of the draft or first round pick guys will tend to give you a little bit more than this. Also, why that Falcons trade was so dumb, Patrick, and what I talked about at the time with that trade, being that you're going for the combo of these guys thinking they're going to put you over the top on your pass rush, and it's like, that's probably not going to happen with them, but for a couple years down the line, meaning you're going to give the Rams a tasty first round pick. Just makes you shake your head and go, what? Why? Zach says Grossi at least admits it. Got to give him props, man. He doesn't want to put us in number 1. It's because he believes it. Morris says, when it comes to Arizona, guard Evan Brown, Big Cat, you are the father. God, I wish, Kendrick, I could do a Jerry Springer. This is where AI is going to be awesome eventually, Kendrick, because we're getting this close to where I could do a prompt for a Jerry Springer prompt and Leonard Williams sitting right next to Evan Brown and him being told that he's the father. And the crowd all reacting. We're getting close, Kendrick. We're getting close, man. I'm going to have a ball with it when I can eventually figure out how to use that stuff. Catalyst, thank you for the $2 donation. Which wide receiver do you think is most like Rasheed Shaheed? Well, I think I don't want to go to this as far as this is ultimately the greatest comparison to make, because of the fact that Deshaun Jackson had the career that he did, and Shaheed's not matched Deshaun with what Deshaun did through the early part of his career. Now, some of this also comes down to the fact that Deshaun Jackson got to go to Andy Reid and his offense and Donovan McNabb and put in a position to be very successful when he went there. Whereas with Shaheed, you're coming to New Orleans Saints after Drew Brees has moved along, and you're running through a cavalcade of different quarterbacks, and you're running through a bunch of different coaches and offensive schemes. And so he's also not been put up in a position to be as successful. But what I think really stands out with these guys is that they're good enough route runners. They're not just simply guys that run really fast in a direction, and they've got good change of direction on top of being able to be fast, but that they have that sort of effortless speed to where when they get down the field, they're running away from everybody. And that it's a kind of speed that's so threatening that you can't just merely say, we'll put 2 guys on him. You can't just merely say, I got the safety coverage over the top. Like, that safety has to get better depth. He has to take another 2 or 3 steps to depth to make sure that he's got things kind of covered up, you know? So it's when I watch the tape of Shaheed, that's the part that stands out to me with it, is that like Deshaun, he's got some supplemental skills that are kind of underrated, pretty decent hands, pretty decent route running, but that gear, almost like a 6th gear in the open field to run away from these guys that are fast in that secondary that you're running from. It does really stand out where his speed surprises guys. It gets on top of guys quick. He eats up cushion in a hurry. And it's a kind of challenge that you just don't get across the board on every NFL team. This kind of guy that can run like that and still be a very competent, capable receiver around it. And so Deshaun was a better player for sure. But in Shaheed, I think that there's a lot of the similar kind of echoes to his game, what he brings to the table. I don't know if there's a guy in the modern era that I could say stands out as much to me. I probably could give you one, though, for the dono at least, right? Not a lot of pure burners anymore. Got so many slot guys and yeah, man, I don't know if I've even got a really good comp that's right now running. I mean, you could go with like a little bit of a Hollywood Brown, but he's a bigger player than Hollywood, so it's like that's not really a good fit. Great question. He's really unique, man. Really, really, really unique. Yeah, I don't know if I've got a good one. Looking through some of the names right now, and I'm just like, yeah, no. Not really that. Not really that. He's a one-off catalyst. That's why I got to go back to Deshaun Jackson. There's really not a Deshaun Jackson-like player playing in the sport right now. But I'm going through these names. I'm just going, yeah, that's not really a fit there with that. He's not really like that guy. He's not really like this guy. And again, not as many burners. You look at the top guys out there, Alex Pierce. All right, let's look at the top guys we got here at the receiving. Jackson Smith, Jamar Chase, good speed guys. Pickens, good speed guys. Puka, not really a speed guy. Justin, okay speed. Amon, he's all right. Might be a little bit of a Devontae Smith in his game, a little bit catalyst, but Devontae's a more well-rounded route runner. Probably has better hands. Maybe a Zay Flowers catalyst. I don't know. That's a tough one. I think even in Zay's case, he's bigger than Zay. I don't have a good fit, man. I just don't have a real good comp for you. Other than that Deshaun one. Guys, I've seen comparisons to Xavier Worthy, but I'm not entirely sure. That's probably about as close as you're going to find for right now. he's bigger than Xavier though. He's got a good 15 pounds on Xavier Worthy, longer arms. I think a little bit bigger size. CD, I get the Genty one, but he has a surprising amount of receiving touchdowns. One behind Tucker and tied with Bowers. Hoping people will feed him in the red zone. Laughing out loud. And they just got to get the red zone against that team. That's the key on that one. But I don't hate it. Anytime touchdowns aren't the worst of bets, man. You know what I mean? Those aren't the worst of bets. Jameson Williams. Yeah. I like the running backs better for the anytime touchdowns than the receivers. Larry, I'm loving the team and hope they win the Super Bowl and hope we don't lose Kubiak after year one. Me as well, Larry. Me as well. I think the one good side of hope here on that one, Larry, can be that it doesn't seem like there's going to be as many teams necessarily looking out and about for as many teams are going to be out there looking out for coaches. We got a couple openings. It'll be for sure. There always is there, but I don't think it'll be like the 6-7 openings sometimes we get on a given year. Might help us to be able to hold on to them for at least one more, if not longer. HHG, thank you for the $2 donation. Double JSN or Shaheed? Which way do the cards go? Hard to predict, HHG. In the first matchup, they decided very, very stoutly to run double teams and bracket coverage on JSN in the first half. They then eased that up into the second half, and Sam Darnold was like, all right, I'm going to start working JSN. And you almost had 100 yards and a half to JSN just on the back of that real adjustment there by the Cardinals. So do they come back at it and they say, okay, well, we need to come back now and we need to double him because that's the way that we shut down JSN and he kind of killed us at the end of that game? Maybe. But then also part of the reason that you slid the double teams off JSN through the course of the Cardinals game was because of the fact that you were finding other holes against the Cardinals with other players, that you were taking advantage of the doubles, attacking one-on-one matchups in other places, and it was making the Cardinals coverages predictable. So I would estimate the Cardinals are going to run a little bit of variance here, HHG, and that they're going to try to kind of mix it up a bit and see if Sam can kind of pick out one way or the other what they're doing, playing and play out, versus just kind of a one-size-fits-all for a half like they did before. But you're going to have some doubles ready for Shaheed. If you single him up, if you get him one-on-one opportunities with Sam's big arm and the deep ball, he's gonna find Shaheed, and he's gonna know exactly how to use a burner like this down the field and throw it up for him. Obviously, they're just getting used to each other with the whole, getting on the same page thing there. But I would estimate and imagine that he'll be acclimated pretty quickly, especially on just the deep stuff. Doesn't take a lot of the timing there. You just go deep, I'll throw it to you. Thank you, though, HHG. Appreciate you. CD says, I want a similar 1-2 punch like the Lions have. You do have that a little bit now. That's for sure. Like you say, Catalyst, you got some contrasting skill sets between these two guys, which is nice. Charlie says, if you squint into the future, you can easily see JSN, Shaheed, and Horton on the long-term deals. Wide receiver room set for the next 2 to 4 years. That'd be pretty cool, man. I could see it. I can see it even without the squint. I'm just eyeballing it in the sun. I can see it. Alberto, your thoughts on next year's quarterback class? I remember your reaction to how our trade with the Falcons. In all honesty, the class went from some very heavy hitters to now it seems to be underwhelming. Yeah, I'm definitely Alberto, just kind of getting into looking at some of these guys and getting into some of the depths on that. And it has been very surprising. And look, I made a bold prediction on this that I thought that you were going to have a couple of quarterbacks that really elevated and built upon what they did last year. And quite frankly, there's, this is kind of becoming a new thing. I don't know if it's the impact of NIL and the college deal, but, quarterbacks don't tend to do this thing where things are going well. And here's another good year where we're doing good. And now here's the make or break year and we're going to go and it's happening. And here, watch me rip this thing up as I'm going to take that next final step. And then you go backwards 2 steps. Drew Aller and Manning. And Manning was a little more of guesswork because he hadn't played as much. But in Klubnik and in Drew Aller's case, you go, what the hell happened here? Everything was on the road for this to occur. And then it completely just falls apart. And it's hard to understand. And again, this is kind of new territory, Alberto, where there is tending to be that progression from the quarterback position, year by year in college football. unless you get a guy that's like changing schools and, leaving a scheme or losing some of the talent that he had from the prior year. There are some interesting quarterbacks in this class. There's not going to be the upper end QB that you really are like, that's going to blow a lot of people away. I think that it's going to be one that people are going to kind of talk themselves into. I was looking at Fernandez out there with, in Indiana, watching him the other night pretty heartily. I went through Ty Simpson's tape as well. Both of those guys got some skill, and they do have some ability. I would tend to say Fernandez is much more of a statue a little bit. He's not as mobile. I don't know if I'm going to have a terribly high day 2 grade on either of those two guys, Alberto. And I don't yet have a first round grade on any current quarterbacks I've seen in this draft. But there's some guys that also have some interesting things to them that might be some fun. Like John Mateer coming out of Oklahoma. He could be a lot of fun. Even, Alberto Garrett Nussmeier, another guy you thought was going to come forward. Like that didn't come forward either. I think Lascelles Norris is the guy that probably has the best chance of being a first round pick. And I think as much as when that does happen, it'll be for teams looking at not where he's necessarily right at now, but as much of really a projection for where his upside is going to be. He seems to be the guy that might be the one tried and true first rounder here. But in general, Alberto, this class just does not look like a particularly strong one. It's got some positions that might be decent, but the overall class itself looks like probably one of the weaker ones we've seen in about the last 10 years. And it kind of adds up to Alberto because of the fact this is the class that, we're now getting into the classes that are removed from the COVID years. They're just pure, they don't get the extra guys in there who've had the extra years of playing. They're purely what they are there as far as the crop of talent you have to pick from. And it'll be a little bit lesser because of it. Jesus, how will the offensive line play versus top defense based on how much better that improved so far? Well, I think you're definitely going to do well for the most part in pass protection. Cardinals can get after that with you a little bit, and they're going to make it hard on you here and there. But I think pass pro, this team has been very, very strong and keeping Sam clean, giving him good pockets to work with. How you're able to, run the ball, we'll see on that. Because, of course, that's been tough sledding. But a big part of the reason that's been tough sledding, Jesus, has been because you have faced so many stacked boxes. And we'll see what the Cardinals are going to intend to do there. But I think they're going to be able to hold up. They've shown they can put up points on anybody. Catalyst says, this quarterback class has dropped in excitement. Part of that is the injuries to guys like Aller. Yeah. Just it's gone really more backwards this year. And we've had a couple of years like this. There was that one year where we were supposed to have Rattler and Sam Howell and a couple other guys were going to kick free, and that thing just fell on its face too. It happens. How's Mason Graham doing and with the Browns? Let me take a look. There we go. He's got 1 sack, 12 solo tackles, 13 pressures, 61.9 grade overall, so slightly below average. But that's also a defense that's living on the football field because their offense sucks balls. So these guys are getting gassed out, tired, sure enough, Kendrick, who's getting a bigger contract, Puka or JSN? Depends on who signs first and who signs second, Kendrick. JSN signs first, then Puka probably makes a little bit more. If Puka signs first, JSN probably makes a little bit more. Puka might also have some mitigating factors here where he's already talked about not wanting to play past the age of 30. And I tend to think with Puka, there might be some stuff there with him from a lower leg injury standpoint that might have the Rams a little concerned. But they'll both essentially end up making right around about the same amount of money when you cut it all up. When it's all snatched up. Ben says, Max Crosby, future Seahawk, book it. I could see it, Ben. You weren't able to make a run at him this offseason, but maybe you can get back at it next offseason. Maybe the Raiders will come to their senses by that point. Charlie says the most surprising stat I've seen mentioned: 9 sacks on the Seahawks quarterback Sam Darnold this season. Indeed. It makes sense in certain respects of this, Charlie. You've played from the head a lot. You're running the ball a lot deep into games. That's a lot of times where you'll have the sacks come up and the pressures come up as teams have to kind of press with the passing attack, and the Hawks have not had to do through most of the games. You're 24th in passing attempts, which also is going to go a long way to helping you not have as many sacks because you're not throwing as often. But it's also been partly because of the improved play of the offensive line, and what this offensive line does best across the board as it stands right now is pass protection. Charles Cross is at his best in pass pro. Lucas is fairly equivalent on each, but he's still a good pass pro guy. Zabel is still far and away better as a pass pro. Bradford far and away better in pass pro than as a run blocker, I think. So just kind of where the strength of the team is right now on that line. Catalyst says the thing is, JMO does consistently burn cornerbacks all the time. Same with Xavier Worthy. Yep. Guys everyone's fast out there in the secondary, but these guys got a whole just another gear to them. Jesus, Shaheed, Flowers. I was kind of thinking that, but Flowers is also kind of small. So I don't know. If I had to go between Jamison Williams or Zay Flowers as a comparison for Shaheed, I'd probably go more Jamison Williams. That's probably a better one there. Oh, we got me in the house. What's up, me? Thank you for the $20 donation. I really do thank you for that. Very kind of you, me, as always. You are tremendous. Shaheed seems like a good dude. Says, I'm here to stay and wants to be here for a long time. How do we feel about that? I'm excited. Hey, I'm excited too. We're talking about trying to find a comp for this guy and how hard it is me. And part of that is a bit of an indication of the fact that there's the value of these guys and that it is hard to find. I thought Xavier Worthy, for instance, when he was taken by the Chiefs, was being taken way too early for what he was really going to bring to the stage as a wide receiver, because there are limitations to his game. But the speed factor of things won out enough for the Chiefs, who've been looking for that speed replacement in Tyreek Hill since they let him go. And how hard have they had to look to go find that guy? How many receivers have they gone through to finally find that guy now? And it's you would say maybe almost an elemental point of what they need to have in their offense. And so I feel great about him staying long-term. To me, it's about him being in the right kind of contract, and that, look, we're not going to break the bank for you. You're not making upper teens as far as what we're going to pay you, but can we come into like a $13 million per year kind of deal for 3 years, and you'll be 30 by the time you get out of the contract, and another chance to go out there and take another swing out in free agency, and you'll still be able to be playing, or we re-up you at that time. So it's really just about where he wants to be on that contract, and if that's something that he wants to, lock into. I think it'll also help for us in re-signing him, and that this is though it's not a real strong draft class, it's one that does have a lot of wide receivers in it. So maybe there'll be less money available for wide receivers out there on the open market this offseason because of that. But he's a unique dude. There are going to be other teams that are going to be interested in potentially his services. So, we'll see how. I think it's still very much up in the air, but good to hear that he's very much open to staying here long-term. And it's one of the first things that comes out of his mouth is that that's what he wants to do. I would say that that's not empty lip service. He doesn't have to say that. And it's cool to see. Hopefully we can, hopefully me on this one, we can hold on to him. So I love the fact that that's what he's saying. And, you can see how, as somebody was saying earlier, like the contrasting styles you get between an Amon St. Brown and Jamison Williams. I agree with that, where there's some similarities there with what you'd get with a Shaheed to JSN, especially with Horton, who can kind of float in between all of it there a little bit. Catalyst, you did stump me, man. I couldn't find a good one. Gilbree says, just watch the Rasheed presser. I like the attitude. I like the fit. Let's go. I know. I only know it because I saw a YouTube short of them getting compared directly. Ah, man, you got to take credit for that, man. You got the best comp out of you. Beat my comp. Catalyst, I can just see Shaheed cutting right up a cover 2 hole shot on a post playoff play action. Yeah, I absolutely can see the same thing too. Defense is just wanting to lock in on that run game, lock in on making sure they're there to help out in the run game if it's that, and that's just enough for him to get past you. Yeah, Zay Flowers too small. He's got better size than Flowers. Jesus says Jacoby Myers, Rasheed. I can go with that comp. I think Rasheed's probably a little faster. Jacoby might have a little bit more of the pure receiver skill set stuff. Charlie says Shaheed's better versus man-to-man than zone. Probably. That sounds like a fair assessment. And when you're getting all these stacked boxes, you're going to get a lot of man-to-man on the outside. As I'm thinking Jacoby will hit Michael Wilson for a touchdown for some weird reason. I could see it. And Wilson's been a lot more productive since Brissett's come into the lineup. Fee says, I'm curious to see how he'll line up with Shaheed on the roster. Maybe some more spread with horizontal running. Could be. Maybe more utilization of a bit of the fly sweep stuff. I think as much as anything, he's just there to punish teams for some of the stacked boxes that they've been facing. Like, oh, that's what you guys want to do? You want to do it at the league high rate? Okay, watch this. CD, I'm skeptical of us being number one team right now because I have an old school mindset of being able to win it all three ways, pass, run, defense, and I think we can only win two ways as of now. But I don't think any other team right now has proven they can do all three either, so I'm also fine with it till I'm proven wrong. Yeah, I get where you're coming from on it. I think from my standpoint, CD, I don't really see the running game as being a failure. I've mentioned this a couple times, and I think I've yet to anybody that's been able to press me on this and saying that they can find a representation of where this existed. If you have a team that's facing the highest stack box rate in the NFL, that's a team that's not likely to run the ball fairly consistently, fairly well. That is teams from a very extreme standpoint saying, we are only going to let you beat us by 1 point of methodology. Pure and simple. And in the NFL, I can move things to one direction in a really extreme way and take stuff away from you. Like if I wanted to, I could run a 3-man front at you, right? From an equivalency standpoint on the CD Woods, I could run a 3-man front at offenses and drop everybody in coverage. And those offenses wouldn't probably be able to do very much in passing, right? Maybe a lot of like really tight passing windows to get a completion out there. So if that were to occur in equivalency, if we flip that to the passing side for what we're facing on the run side, would you look at that passing attack and say, well, that's a team that doesn't pass well? Or would you say that that's a team that faces an absolute ridiculous amount of extreme degrees and how teams are playing them as far as where they're putting the assets defensively from one place to the other? And that this is kind of confirmed then when you would look at it from an equivalency standpoint, when I flip this the other way, CD, and you go, okay, what if it was just 3-man fronts you're facing, and then you got 8 guys dropping into coverage every time? Well, now I'm going to be able to run the ball. And then I should be running the ball really effectively. In fact, I probably should be the most efficient and effective team at running the football in the entire National Football League if teams are going to go one extreme on defense to the other. Likewise, when you flip that coin back the other way and you look at our situation, stacked boxes, highest rate in the NFL, you're passing at some of the highest, most productive efficiency rates in the sport. So it is kind of adding up on the math on this one. And that's to me where we're not necessarily a bad running team. It's just the teams are so extremely taking that away from us. Hey, I imagine if Sam hits Shaheed for 2 deep touchdowns, oh my gosh, 12th man will go insane. I'll be right there with it. Kyle says, I can see it burning Denzel Burke. You're going to have 2 rookie cornerbacks starting on the outside for the Cardinals in this game. Sounds like Denzel Burke's going to be in there for Melton, who had a concussion, short week, probably not going to get through concussion protocol. So Denzel Burke's out on one side, and then you're going to get Will Johnson out on the other. Charlie says NIL is killing college football. It might just be, man. Some of this might be really coming into, some of the bad effects of this a little bit, especially the quarterback play. Catalyst, Indiana's quarterback has surprised me. I can't lie. He's got some skill. I like the overall. I like the throwing motion. Feet are pretty nice. He's got some upper end arm strength there that he can put on display. The mobility is not there though, and some of that's to me becoming somewhat of a bit more of a prerequisite than it's been in the past. He is a little slow and a little just lack of dynamic athlete thing going on there. When you got to have him roll into his left and throw, you don't get the same kind of arm strength or the same kind of accuracy. But he's got some tools, Catalyst. CD, I think Mendoza and Simpson are 1A and 1B, though I'm biased on Simpson because Bama fan. kid from Oregon is 3. And after that, doesn't look like the first round guys from what I've seen. Yeah, I'll be surprised if Mendoza and Simpson get up into the first round. If those guys get in the first round, I would much as anything probably be thinking it's as much driven by what's my train of thought? Need more than it is their talent really driving that bus. Catalyst, my issue is these dumb spread shotgun offenses in college just don't translate into the NFL, and all the quarterbacks have to learn more pro style offenses. It's true. It'd be great if you could do more of the pro style stuff at the college level to prepare them. Problem is those hash marks just make that never a likelihood. Wide hashes make them want to go to spread. Catalyst, look at Ryan Grubb last year. Even Chip Kelly is failing in Vegas with his scheme. Todd Monken may be an exception, but he's had some bad games play calling this year. He has. And it's where that college offense, that kitschy air raid thing is just, it's hard to execute at the pro level. You got to have a certain kind of quarterback, certain kind of personnel. And even then, I'm not sure that it necessarily works 100% great. Those are Chip and Grubb. Those are college coaches that very much, especially in Grubb's cases, heavily reliant on having that wide hash. I can bring all the guys to the short hash. I can get a guy singled up over on the far hash, and I got all this space to work with over there to isolate him. Simplifies things down at times. Amy says, Shaheed said everyone feels so close with each other. Can't wait to check out the presser, man. I'm stoked. With Lance, any interest in checking out Asante Samuel now that he's healthy? I've always had a soft spot for Asante, so if he's good to go, I'd look at him. I don't want to make a priority of it, but I'd kick the tires on that. Cal Jewel, thank you for the $1 super sticker. I appreciate that. Double donation today. Thank you for that, Cal. He passed his physicals as Catalyst. Oh, I'd take a look at him. I think he'll probably end up going back to the Chargers. Charles is a 4-year, $100 million range for both guys. Oh, I think you're paying more than that. I think both guys are going to be in the $40 million range on a 4-year deal. So it's probably like 4-year 160. Charlie? CD says, oh yeah, Simpson's feasting in a Grubb offense that I don't think works in the NFL, but he looks great. His only con for me so far has been he hasn't faced a lot of pressure. Yeah, let me bring up I got my scouting report the other night on this guy. My initial look-see. I've got my player comp for him as a shorter Eli Manning with plus mobility. That's what I see in Ty Simpson. A little more ability, about the same kind of arm talent to me a little bit. Maybe a little bit less pure arm strength than maybe what Eli might have had, but right in the same territory. He's a decisive decision maker in the pocket, makes quick reads, shows a quick delivery from within the pocket, fairly clean mechanically, lower half, talks to the upper half with the quick delivery. Unless he's rolling to his right, where he does have a windup that elongates, and sometimes he will lean into falling off of his back foot. He's got Daniel Jones type mobility and evasiveness when turning into a runner, shows solid ball placement when dialing up the RPMs. Most comfortable targeting the middle of the field on in-breaking routes. On these throws, he operates with good anticipation and arm strength. Not as comfortable throwing outside the numbers or deep. Arm strength can wane on the deep balls, average to very slightly above average arm strength for a prospect. So there's some good stuff to him, and I can certainly see how eventually he might get elevated into more of a first-round-ville area, but I don't know if that's a first-round arm, and I don't know if that mobility is quite worthwhile enough to say it's upper level. Might just be merely kind of goodish. Phoebe, Hawks Nest, a lot of channels are getting a lot since the Commanders game. It's time for the casuals to come in and get you to 30K. Let's go, Phoebe. I'm on board. And we're doing great, man. Our growth this year has been awesome. We rounded 20,000 not too long ago. We're almost to 20,500. So we'll cross that this Sunday. We're motoring, but it'll be good to get to 30,000. That's the next roll. So folks, if you ain't subbed up, please do get subbed up as we're trying to get to that 30,000. Jacob Frederick, bro, I'm a Steelers fan. Thanks for DK. You're welcome, Jacob. Thank you for the second round pick, man. It's appreciated. Megan Hawksnest, time to start work Monday. Heading out. Take care and see you at the game, if not before. Sounds good, Megan. You have a good one. Thank you. Appreciate you. Dogzilla, I saw someone use a new WhatsApp voice feature where you select what voice you want to hear when you speak. AI's getting crazy, man. Catalyst, is he good on jet sweeps and end arounds? He's done a little bit of that with the New Orleans Saints, but that's not a forefront thing that they do. Koken, is it true that YouTube takes 30% of the donations? Something like that, 25%, something in that neighborhood. It's really brutal when you put on the Apple Pay, because then Apple Pay takes a chunk out too. You get some so Apple Pay takes its chunk, YouTube takes its chunk. Yeah, they can kind of reduce things down. So that's why I like to have the Patreon there too, is if you are able to do Patreon, that's the cool way to do it, because definitely YouTube takes out a pretty big slice. Catalyst says, we're trying to run against 7 to 8 man boxes all the time in our heavy tight end sets, so we end up passing out of that to take advantage of the mismatches. That's right. That's right. Charlie, can we acknowledge that Shaheed is a self-made NFL wide receiver? He was undrafted in a UDA signing with the Saints and has become a weapon in special teams and at wide receiver. Absolutely self-made, and a guy that you don't get there by but working hard. There's been plenty of speedsters who've come to this league as very raw talents who were not able to ever really develop into anything, even the one trick, just be a deep guy thing. But he's rounded himself into a full tilt receiver. He can kind of do it all a little bit. And you don't get there but having a really great work ethic. I think that this was evidenced by how you heard about the Saints talking about him leaving, be it fans, be it the players, and how they spoke about him leaving. He seemed like that kind of guy that we would think would be that hard worker, all in, doing what he needs to do to become what he has as a player. And you want that's the kind of guys you got in this locker room right now. So just kind of adding more to the same of what you have. Theo says, go ahead and stack the box. I like watching Sam pick them apart. Me too, man. Surf or ski, man. We'll do you anyway. Slobby, when are you getting a contract with Steve Rabel, Brandon? Whenever he comes a calling, man. I'm ready for the booth, man. I'm ready to be right next to him whenever he comes calling. Catalyst, the narrow hash marks make condensed splits the best in the NFL. Seattle, San Francisco, and LA all rely on condensed splits and play action. Spread and air raid just ain't it. Agreed. I think that this is that transitional period that we're in, Catalyst, where things are moving back to a little bit of old school football, especially into more like mid-90s football, as far as that those kind of formations and looks start to have a little bit more of a factor at play. And the defenses are going to be left scrambling a little bit on this, as we've just gone through a 10-year era of everything seemingly driving towards spread conceptually. So with 10 years, everything conceptually driving towards spread across the board, that's made defenses build themselves inherently to deal with more spread concepts. And so when you go to more heavier base stuff and heavier looks and 12 and 13 personnel, that's where you're going to catch them off guard, where they don't have as many answers in their book to call upon. And you're right. You're seeing with San Francisco and the Rams. Rams last week, I think, were running as much 13 personnel as they have at any time in recent memory. I mean, all these teams are leaning into this, and it's to their benefit that they're doing so. Early in 2023, she enjoyed a career game, hauling in 3 receptions for 153 yards and a touchdown. Woo! I'll take that on Sunday, man. Catalyst, Mr. Horton, touchdown Seahawks. All right. Catalyst, Derek Carr and Rasheed were connecting. I think it was against the Colts in 23, right? That might be right. Yeah. They were really on point in 24 too. Catalyst. I mean, those guys were, he was taking the top off every week there in 24. Martin agrees with me. He says, our run game isn't bad. We're getting yards against stacked boxes and staying committed to it. It's what's creating space in our passing game. Teams are afraid of our running backs, IMO. That's my outlook on this as well, man. Z Koken, can items purchased in your store be shipped to New York? Yes, sir. Should be able to ship anywhere in the world. AI says Jarek Reed got claimed by the Titans. He did. Yeah, he did indeed. Did indeed. Unfortunate. But that's going to happen when you're a good team. Teams are going to start plucking from you. Lance, what positions are you targeting with our top 3 draft picks? I'd say first round, edge, second cornerback, third running back, find a linebacker in the 6th. Great question, Lethal Lance. When it comes to day 1 and 2, I am what I call militant. I'm what I call a fundamentalist. And what I mean by that is there's oftentimes that I would tell you that you can't just do things extremely to one strategy style, kind of one size fits all. But through the years of doing draft coverage, and the more that I cover drafts and the more that I see teams fail, and I'm talking day 1 and 2 especially, because that's really where you got to make your money. The thing that I see over and over that happens within that is the reaching for need, is not trusting the value of your board. And so when you say, well, what's kind of the priority on those first couple of picks, that's where you're starting to target for need more than you're targeting for the value of who's available to you. Now, if a 3 tech is the most valuable guy to you in the first round, are you going to go for the 3 tech here? Probably not. With the Riley Mills and Leonard Williams and Reed, and there's going to be some points on this where you can't take it beyond Thunderdome. But if there's an awesome edge there in the first round that the team likes, yeah, sure, they would I'm sure jump on it, and that's where the greatest things can happen in a draft, Lethal, where need meets value. I mean, that's X marks the spot, as I like to say. But what happens if it's running back is your highest pick there in the first round? That the running back you have a first round grade on. Well, then you'd go with the running back there rather than the third round. I think ideally you'd like to get your running backs into kind of round 2 or 3, and then you're getting a hyper talented guy that might have been a prior era, been a first round running back. So the value is pretty good there. But I think you got to be open to taking who's ever there. I mean, if it's in a first round and you have a Jihad Campbell, for instance, again, the first round, and you're looking for a will linebacker there to add next to Ernest Jones that you want to improve, like that'd be the one you jump on there. As far as just looking at need and not where you're picking them at, I think that outside corner becomes priority number 1. I think that running back probably quietly becomes a little bit of almost priority 2, especially if Kenneth Walker were to leave. Understanding that we're really not sure at this point with Charbonnet on where he's at. He's had some games, but he's averaging a couple yards a carry this year, and it's he hasn't looked exactly like a second round running back. Let's just say that. So that's definitely one where you could be looking there too. Edges in the mix on this. You're right there. Thing is, you are going to be returning 3 edges next year. Do you want to go draft a guy, or are you going to go look for a little bit more of another solid vet to add to the rest of what you got there? Could be the direction they go there. But part of this too, Lethal, is just don't have as many positions of need that you got to go out there and address. It's kind of, you got everything locked up. Your tight ends are taken care of. Your booking tackles are done. Your left guard's good. You got 3 quarterbacks deep. Your wide receiver room would be completely done, especially at this point if you get Rasheed signed in here in the long term. It's a good problem to have. Femi, I love Vikings. I love Viking fans are like Card fans. They see JJ play one game and we're like, we never needed Darnold. So delusional. Yeah. There's a little bit of them going through it this year where they're like seeing that this was maybe a mistake the organization made, and a major one at that, pairing away from Darnold. And so you start to try to find some refuge of hope within that, Feed Me, which is what I think they're doing there with the JJ play of this last week. And maybe he turns out to be okay in the long term. I think I still lean on my original assessment of McCarthy coming out of the draft, and I stand tall in that assessment of what I saw from him. Just don't think that guy's going to be the guy long term there to take him to the promised land. ZD, I do think running against stacked boxes helps our explosive passing game. Take the Jags game. How many 3 and outs do we run only to play action to Barner to win the game at the end? Yeah, it's effective. Staying committed to the run game is still smart. You'll notice with me, CDs, that despite the fact that we haven't been necessarily effective at running the game, running the ball, or consistent at it, that I've continued to stay. I like the balance that we're utilizing because, to your point, it's keeping defenses honest, and it's keeping defenses locked in on the run game, and it's making them have to stay committed to stopping that. And we saw last year what happens when you're on the other side of this, when you get too pass happy, when defenses do not have to honor the run at all. The pass rushers pin their ears back. Your offensive line looks worse than they actually are. You take too many sacks. You have too many turnovers then from the back of it. It's got a lot of effects that happen downwind when you don't do this one thing at the forefront. And it can be boring at the forefront, and it can seem like you're hammering your head against the wall at the forefront. But I agree. It's kind of a vital part of this offense to get it to where it can still be so very effective in passing the ball. Oh, I forgot. Center and right guard, 1 through 3. Gumagar through right. I forgot all about right guard and center too. I've been traumatized by those positions. And those would probably grab even more of a baseline above the others on that. CD, I could see a top interior offensive line, man. That might not have been drafted yet in the first, but I mostly like cornerback, linebacker in the first. Anthony Hill, Colton Hood, Mansour. I could see that being where the value is at, CD. I've heard those are stronger positions in this draft, to your point. And we come back to value-based standpoint. Who is the most valuable guy I got on my board? I got a board that stacks up to where there's a pecking order by round, and then there's the pecking order by how have our prospects stack up 1 through 739 prospects that are in this draft. Who is the guy right now at the top of that board as we're up to pick? That's the guy who I want to select more often than not, if not every single time if I can. CD says, I think Anthony Hill might drop with Averill Reese rising so much. All right. I'll add him to the deal here. I'll add him to the thing. Anthony Hill. All right. Give me 1 sec here. Folks, we'll be right back. What are you doing, kitty? Martin says, if we were to win an NFC title in Sam Darnold's first season, has he overachieved or was he undervalued by the wider media? I think he's undervalued by the wider media. I just think that the original takes that are out there with Darnold that existed with him with the Jets, he can't shake free of unless he goes out there and does just something amazing. And maybe playoff success is the thing that will drive finally this narrative to have it thrown in the trash where it belongs. But you saw that everybody gloms onto this. Martin, I was just on the NFC West roundtable, and it got mentioned multiple times over by fans talking about Sam again, where it's like you first have the vision of him with the Jets and how he played there. And then he goes and does some other things at different places. And then he has the year he has with the Vikings. And then he has a game there with the Rams in the playoffs, or the last 2 games of the year, where suddenly now he looks a little bit like and similar to kind of the version of Darnold you had with the Jets. But that's where people get very lazy and that they just go, well, that's just really who he is. Or it's like, instead of like, yeah, what were the conditions around why he played that way in those games? Because those are 2 sample size games from what he had done throughout the whole rest of the course of the season. Was there something at play that was different from what he encountered through the rest of the course of the season? Was it just merely they played good teams and that's it? Or was it also your offensive line completely fell apart? Kevin O'Connell definitely didn't have the best of game plans to counter it. He'd admit that himself. And that was really at the forefront. But Sam's been one of those guys like we had with Geno Martin here, where when it comes to the quarterback outlook of things, people get very lazy. They get very stuck on the first view of what they get of a guy. They like to go with their kind of a gut instinct of what they feel in the player. They don't let new data come into account to move them off their spot. And so that guy gets kind of that scarlet letter A that they got to carry through their whole career a little bit, unfairly so. CD, are there any day 2 nose tackles? I'm not sure there. I've got to admit, CD, I've been a little bit late on getting to the prospects this year. So I'm just starting to kind of amp this up, man. I barely looked at a handful of guys at this point, but I'm trying every day to kind of add up some more, and then hopefully I'll get through. I'll hopefully get through a few more here as we go along. Probably not. Day 2 nose tackles tend to be fairly rare. Yeah, I feel like we're overlooking Abraham Lucas's impact right now. God, I'm so happy that he's back, locking it down the right tackle side. Always being awesome, man. Playing like a first round right tackle, like I thought when we originally drafted him, like he was in those first 10 games. And rewarding John for that early contract. No, he's been great. And last game in particular, man, equally well graded as a pass protector and as a run blocker. Tezakaku, we finally drafted a guard and we're ranked number 1 in the NFL by all sources. Laughed my ass off. We were hammering it for years, Tezakaku. We were hammering this thing for years going, man, it's not that complicated. Just go get it. This is true. We've been telling John the whole day. We've been telling him, man. We've all been telling him. It ain't just been me. And you guys right with it. Like, come on. Come on. Lethal Zabe is also born and raised in Washington. I love that part of it too, man. Love having local kids here. Cooper Cup. It's very cool. Charlie, should Sam Darnold get the MVP? Will Sam Darnold get the MVP? Should he? Is he playing as well as any player in this sport to deserve that? Sure. I think that if you're taking into account his level of efficiency of play and what he's guided this team to do, yeah, it should. Are there guys that are at kind of an equivalent level in what they're doing for their teams at the quarterback position, and Matt Stafford and Baker Mayfield? Yeah, there is. Will he get the MVP? I don't really think there's any way that he would. It tends to be kind of an East Coast award anyway, or if it's going to be a guy on the West Coast that wins it, like LA would be, where you'd probably see it. I think too, he's just not going to have, Charlie, the passing attempts. You're 24th in passing attempts. So even if he ends up throwing for 4,500 yards with a low amount of passing attempts, he still won't have ultimately the top end production of other guys who are going to end out the season with probably somewhere over the neighborhood of like 150 to 175 more passing attempts than Sam Darnold's going to have. I think that's going to kind of stick him in a little bit of a box on what he can do with that. On top of, you may have Jackson kind of pulling some of the MVP votes away from him when it gets said down the line on this a little bit, because Jackson might too if he gets over 2,000. CD, we definitely won signing Lucas early. We did. And the good news on that one is that in signing Lucas early and him getting this level of play, unlike Cross, you were actually going to be able to save a significant amount of money versus once you eventually did get him on the extension or try to give him the extension after this year. So it was a smart deal to give, but it was also the right guy to give the right deal at the right time too there. Lethal B, I'm curious, what's Bradford's season zone blocking grade be looking like after the last game? I don't think we actually have it as much broken down by that. Yeah, they don't chop it up by really zone block or they just give you the run block grade, period. Lethal Lance on PFF. So his run block grade this year, he's been better as a run blocker than pass blocker. 57.4 pass blocking grade this year. Funny enough, all 3 seasons in Seattle, his pass blocking grade has remained the same. His grade in general has kind of remained within about 5 points of each other for the 3-year period here in Seattle with Bradford. He's down at 40. He's actually playing his worst brand of football this year at 46.3, down from his high of 51.7 in his rookie year in 2023. Catalyst is somehow Colton McKivitz is making as much as Lucas. What the F? Niners fall in love with their linemen. Those guys that have been there for years, whether they're really worth it or not, and even their fans will be like that guy's not worth that. Why are we giving that guy that deal? They just kind of fall in love with their dudes. For me, the Rams signed the thicker kicker. Like, what a nickname. That's a hell of a nickname. And yeah, the Rams have a little bit of that Achilles heel when it comes to, their special teams unit in general. Jake was admitting that last night. If Jake's admitting it, then you know it's a problem. Martin says trying to get JSN to draft a left guard or right guard is like trying to get a nervous cat into a carry box to go to the vet. Takes a lot of coaxing, and even though at some level they know it's for their own good. That's so true, man. This is so true. I can't offer more than that to what it is. Just kicking and screaming was John to come to the piece that he has the last 3 years to actually put these significant amount of draft capital towards the line. And you have an offensive line playing as well, or if not at a high water mark than we have seen for a 10-year period. So as I come back to this, like people want to get all complicated with the offensive line scheme and, do you have the receiving talent that keeps people on? Do you have the running back that can be dynamic? It's like, this really just comes down to a real simplified state. And I know I say often in football, don't go to the simplified, but this is one that just seems to be true. If you put the resources into the offensive line, like Field of Dreams, if you build it, he will come. If you build the offensive line and actually put top end assets into it, you're going to probably produce a good offensive line. It's not so complicated as it's like 5 offensive linemen, you have to look at like quarterbacks where it's like hard to evaluate, hard to look at upside, hard to know if they're going to reach that upside. I think it gets a little bit more simpler, even with some of the difficulties in finding true offensive linemen that have run pro style systems back in college. You still have an ability, I think, to get a guy. You just got to make your peace with being willing to actually give up the goods to go get the guy that's worth it. HHG, there's supposed to be thunderstorms throughout the day today. Ooh, hold on. Goodness. Well, hang on in there on that side of it. That is for sure. That is for sure. All right. Well, I think we've gotten pretty caught up today. We got Martin seeing a lot of pundits saying we're Super Bowl contenders. Thank you for that. 10 months as a Hawks Nest member, man. I appreciate you for that. And you are hearing a lot of that. The Rasheed Shaheed trade that we talked about at the start of the show today, Martin, is one that is being universally praised throughout the NFL. And you hardly ever get in the NFL places where there's universal praise because, hell, there's clicks for just going counter and being a contrarian. But I think that what Seattle's doing is standing out to a lot of ball knowers out there, and that there's a variety of good things happening with this team. It's not one star carrying it through like a Darnold or a JSN, but it is this amalgamation of really top-end parts along with what those guys are doing that's really making you stand out and go, oh, man, they got that, and they got that, and this guy's doing it, and this guy's rolling, and boy, that guy's going good. Oh, I forgot they had this guy too. He's there, and oh, my God, that guy's a freak. They're doing a lot of that, and then they're going, oh, you just added Rasheed Shaheed on top of it. And I think that it's making them look at this and go, how do you not put him in that way? Especially when you have other things like DVOA, advanced analytical stats like that have existed out there that are got us. We've been up in the number one DVOA team, I think, for as much as anybody in this season, for as long as anybody in this season. I remember with the Legion of Boom teams, we were the only defense for a 4-year period to lead the NFL in DVOA. And 2 of those years you got to a Super Bowl. So you can try to throw away the DVOA stat as something that doesn't matter. And it's just some extra nerd stat that somebody came up with that doesn't really carry any weight. But it has indicated in the past, you have a team of greatness, and may include now another indication here that this team as well is ready for greatness too. So I'm seeing the same thing. It's getting me jacked, man, when you're hearing these folks talk about like that, Martin, because it's isn't just Hawk fans that are saying it. It's pundits, it's people that watch all these teams across the sport come into this assessment and determination. And DVOA has got us with the highest odds. They have us and the Buffalo Bills with the 2 highest odds of making the Super Bowl and facing off against each other. And what a fight that would be. What a battle that'd be. What a cool Super Bowl that would be. Well, I thank you guys for watching today. We're going to go ahead and put a bit of a button up on this one and get to the other side of it. But I do thank you guys for watching today. We've got to the B&B show coming back, of course, mañana. So we'll be getting back to you guys on that one soon. So we will get that hooked up with you guys on that. Oh, too large. Only could take so much. But we got our Hawks ready to go here against the Cardinals. So we will be coming back at you with Thursday for B&B show. Me and Brent are going to break this down, going to get into some of the numbers tonight with this Cardinal team and about where they are, getting into some of the matchups and how this game should flow and go and how the Seahawks should look to target and go after this Cardinal team. Hint, hint, 2 rookie corners. Maybe you can look to go after that a little bit on that side. And certainly this offensive line, which is going to have some tremendous amount of weaknesses that I would say you're going to be able to go out there and hopefully attack. I thank you guys for watching today. If you can for me, please do hit that like button. Please do sub on up, as it does help this channel out tremendously. Is it better if the Rams and Niners tie? Nah, let's get a loss to one or the other. Let's get the Rams winning, put the Niners away, start to put them on that trajectory of heading down. Then we can just set this all down up on the Rams, get one of them knocked off the board, get the other one up in our dead sights that we get to play twice the rest of this year. I want to see it go that way. Martin says, I think we will get to the end of the season, and a lot of people are going to be saying Torrey Horton is one of the biggest steals of this draft. I agree. I 100% agree, man. He's a guy with, much like I've said about Cooper Kupp or Arroyo or Barner, you're not getting a lot of target share going to these guys, but it doesn't mean that they're not doing their job, and it doesn't mean that they're not being impactful. And a guy that's on pace for like 11 touchdowns when he's barely being targeted shows you there might be something a little bit of special here to this Torrey Horton. And Kubiak was singing his praises a couple of weeks ago. I think he's very high on the kid, and the future is very bright. One of the best picks of this last draft, no doubt about that, Martin. And I think we got a starter for the future there in this kid. And that's L development. When you can go get a 5th-round receiver like this that can give you that, you're getting value from day 3 like that, and then you're kicking butt on day 1 and 2. Pathway to a championship. Call it a yellow brick road to a championship, I would say, Martin, to that side of it. Well, I thank you guys today for watching. Appreciate you for hanging in there. Again, please hit that like button if you get a chance. Do utilize my sleeper code here with Sleeper, the #1 sports app in the game. They'll match up to 100% of your first deposit, plus just a free $20 for creating a login itself. That's all you got to do out the gate. So $120 from me to you. And all you got to do is use my code NEST. So please do go to Sleeper right now. Terms and conditions do apply. See their site for details. But this is supposed to be opening up now in the state of Washington, free and clear for you guys to be able to go and utilize the app in full and go have some fun with it. Daily fantasy, split your basketball and your football together a little bit at the same time, put a ticket together on that, but go win yourself some money. Thanks, guys, for watching. We will be back tomorrow, 12 o'clock Pacific Standard Time with the B&B show. But until that time, please don't you ever forget. Don't you dare forget. Go Hawks.